Yes. Okay, we got a few people coming in, but we're gonna call to order the meeting tonight. Board of Trustees for the Nampa School District. If you would please with me stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove your hats. The flag's up here in the corner. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone want to volunteer to sing the national anthem? No? All right, we'll move on to the next. We have a number of guests here. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. We have some administrators here from schools. We have some students here from school, and we're going to do a student spotlight. So we welcome you and thank you for taking time out. We can't wait to hear what you have to tell us. Okay, welcoming mission and vision. So we'll recite the mission and vision of the Nampa School District. The mission
of the Nampa School District is to ensure high levels of achievement for every student.
Our vision statement is
every student is fully engaged in extraordinary learning experiences, preparing for successful transition to the next stage of life.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of agenda items. We'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve agenda items.
And second.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Almost got you. No one's opposed. All right, that motion carries. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is our student spotlight. And this is the Skyview High School wrestling program. And go ahead. I'm not even going to try to steal your thunder.
Good evening, board members. Thanks for allowing us a few minutes tonight to spotlight not only our high school wrestling program, but some youth wrestlers as well that will feed not only into our program, but it'll feed into hopefully all of the programs in Nampa. Also with us tonight is Eric Bonds, our athletic director, who oversees all of our extracurricular activities and does a great job promoting and supporting those programs. So without further ado, again, welcome and thanks for welcoming us, and appreciate the time that you guys have allowed us tonight. And also thank you to Superintendent Russell for allowing us to be here as well. Dusty Vaughn is our head coach. He's been with us he's in his third year now. So he's been a part of some of the transitions and things that have been going on with all the things that we've had to deal with COVID over the last 3 years and Techmageddon and different things. So he came in actually at the right time to help lead our program. And so without further ado, I'll introduce Dusty Vaughn.
If you could introduce yourself, just so those.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Will Barber. I'm the principal at Skyview High School.
Thanks, Will.
Yep. Sorry.
No worries.
Dusty.
Is that my key?
Yep.
That's your cue.
Thanks. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm humbled and grateful to be here tonight to speak on behalf of a lot of people here in Nampa. Right. The first thing I want to apologize for, and I tend to do this, is I apologize for the speech you're about to hear, because I'm not very good at them. I'm not very charismatic, but I'm pretty sincere and honest about things. Right. And so I do apologize that ahead of time. I want to thank Mr. Bonds and Mr. Barber for having me. I am so blessed and grateful to have these two gentlemen as my administration. They have been a blessing to me, and they're like the perfect mix for somebody like myself. And they do just such a phenomenal job over there at Skyview. I'm really proud to be a part of that. So thank you guys, appreciate you. Tonight's format, I figured I would do the introduction of which Mr. Barber did, and then I wanted to show you a video just to kind of get things started about what we're doing. But like I said, my name is Dusty Vaughn, head wrestling coach of Skyview High School. I'm also the head wrestling coach at South Middle School. I'm also the head wrestling coach for the Hawk Wrestling Club. And I just finished my master's in December. So I've been very busy the last couple of years. My first year here wasn't a very easy one. was Techmageddon was the first year. And then last year we had COVID, and then kind of the curtails of that moving forward from here. But it's been a blessing to be here. So without further ado, I wanted to play this video here for you guys. You can see a little bit about what we're doing.
You ready? Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name. He doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to be heard, whether it's the beat of the mic.
Okay, when you guys become a Hawk wrestler, right? When you guys wrestle for the Hawk Wrestling Club, okay, it is the standard. It is expected that you do the right things. And that means you guys are taking care of your schoolwork. That means that you're being good people to your teachers. That means that you're doing good things with your friends. And if your friends are not doing good things, you find different friends, okay, right?
Put it together himself, got a picture connects, never asking for someone's help or to get some respect. He's only focused on what he wrote, his will is beyond reach, and now it all unfolds, the skill of an artist. This is 20% skill, 80% fear, be 100% clear, cause Ryu was ill. Who would have thought he'd be the one that set the West in flames, and I heard him wreck it with the crystal method.
He talks about being colorful.
What?
He talks about us being family and respect.
Okay, guys. So I want to talk to you guys about a couple of things, okay? About what it means to be a wrestler and what it means to be a wrestler for the Hawk Wrestling Club. Eyes up here. Eyes up here. The first thing is being respectful, okay? So it's understanding whenever you guys have somebody up in front of you, right? Being respectful means we close our mouth, we turn our ears, and we have our eyes on coach, okay? And that's first, how we're respectful, but two, that's how we learn.
He don't think it's a comment on his name. People keep asking him, was it given that birth that doesn't stand for an acronym? No, he's living proof. Let him rock in the booth. He'll get you buzzing quicker than a shot of vodka with juice. Him and his crew are known around as one of the best. Dedicated to what they do and give 100%. Forget Mike. Nobody really knows how or why he works so hard. It seems like he's never got time because he writes every note and he writes every line.
We can do good things in the world.
In his mind, it's like a design is written in his head every time before he even touches a key or speaks in a rhyme. And those other fellas he runs with, the kids that he signed, ridiculous without even trying. How do they do it? This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50%.
That was credit due to Alicia McElroy, who's one of our youth parents. I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, where this all came from. So I moved here 3 years ago. Previously, I used to coach for the 5th ranked team in the United States for Alamosa High School. We had 3 consecutive years in a row where we were top 25 in the country, ultimately ending with the 5th ranked position in the country, right? And multiple national champions, multiple All-Americans came out of that program, and it was a fun time. Moving here to Skyview, over here to Nampa, was one of the greatest blessings we'd ever had. We took over the program, and one of the things that we saw right away was Skyview didn't have a club team, right? There was no club team for the youth kids. There was a club team for Nampa and Columbia, but there wasn't one for Skyview. So that was one of the first things that we initiated in the first year of COVID. Well, the first year we started, we had 21 kids that had came out, right? Kindergarten through 12th grade, right? And then 2 weeks later, COVID shut the world down. And so in the midst of trying to build a program, you know, we got shut down right quick. And so then we spent the rest of the summer without anyone. And we came back the next year and we tried to recoup what we had built. And then this year, right, we started here in the fall, and I'm proud to say that we now have 85 kids without the high school a part of our program. And this is something that I'm very, very proud of and very humbled and grateful to have. And it's just been such an amazing blessing, all the support that parents have. We actually are at a point where we've had to stop allowing people to come in because we don't have any more room within the wrestling room that we do have. So we're kind of at that point where it's like it's starting to catch a lot of momentum, right? And so I'm very proud of that. We've also initiated creating a new league here in the Treasure Valley, which includes some schools like the Boise schools, Meridian, the West Ada schools, and there's about 15 of them. We've created a new league called the Treasure Valley Wrestling League. That's something that I've helped spearhead along with a number of other coaches in this area to provide more opportunities for our kids, right? And the wonderful people of this great community. And so we're very, very proud of that. One thing that I hope whenever this is over is I get a chance to field some questions from you guys as we kind of move on. I really hope that you guys ask me some questions. I hope that you guys have some interest in what we're doing. But what I would like to do right now is we brought a few of our kids to speak to you guys and talk to you guys about what we're doing with our program and what it's doing for them specifically, if you guys would be okay with that. You guys good? Awesome. Why don't you guys go ahead and come on up, guys. So the ones I'm going to introduce is going to be Teague and Wyatt, or not Wyatt. His older brother wrestles for me. His brother's name's Wyatt. No, this is Jacob, and then this is Teague. You guys want to step to the side?
Can you move that mug down off the, there we go. Now you got to see it.
Should I put this?
I think you can pull that mic up.
Pull
Yeah, pulls out.
Okay.
I can hold it.
Have you ever held one of those ones?
There you go.
Get it, like, talk into it like you're eating.
Here, let me see that. You go ahead and read.
So, my brother started wrestling his first year of high school. And so we went to his first school, and Coach Vaughn, his coach, we heard that he started a wrestling camp for the younger ones like us. And so my mom said I could join the club. And I was really nervous the first day, but then at the end of practice, I realized I didn't really need to be nervous because I knew I was gonna have fun. And then I also learned hard things could also be fun at the same time. But then a few days later, the wrestling camp shut down and I was really angry. And so the next year it opened up, and then I joined the club again. And the first tournament, I got pinned the first round, but then Coach Vaughn pulled me aside, said, "You don't need to be worried, just put aside your stress and just have fun." And then I pinned the kid the second round and the third round. And then I took second place in that tournament for my weight class.
Nice.
Then I realized wrestling was a lot of fun, and if you work hard, you can achieve your goals.
Very good.
You want to just sit down, or do you want to say something? That's okay. You can go sit down. You can probably hold that or hold that right
Your
there.
parents, if you want to come up here, you're more than welcome to come up here and do it. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned. I saw you standing over there. I was like, want to make them start over again.
Come up here. No.
So my name is Nash McMillan, and I wrestle for the Hawks Wrestling Club. So this is good here. So wrestling is a huge part of my life, and my older brothers have been wrestling for about 15 years. Growing up, I would go to their matches and watch them work hard to get results. And I knew that when I was older, I wanted to wrestle like them. But what I didn't know was how much I would love wrestling and how impactful it would be in my life. And wrestling has shown me that hard work and dedication pay off, and that you have to be there and put the work in to get results, and to never take shortcuts. And wrestling has shown me that the effort I put forward on and off the mat not only makes me a better athlete, but a better young man. And Hawks Wrestling Club isn't just a club, we're a family. That's it.
The big boy is coming up. Oh, but there he is. You want the mic over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Jonathan. I'm in the 5th grade. I came to this wrestling club in the summer, right, doing the camp. This is actually my very first year doing this, and I've learned a lot. These coaches over here, they just taught me everything I know in wrestling. I'm very honored to be here right now. And also, I wanted to say something about my coach. He honored me to be the best wrestler I can and put in all the work I can, do the very best. He taught me responsibility. He kept on like whenever I messed up on a move, he helped me out. He helped me redo the move multiple times. Then I became one of the best people in the younger group. So he moved me over to the 6th graders group, and that just taught me way more. Any questions?
I think I'm tall enough for this. Makes me feel special. I'm just glad to have Vaughn as my coach. I think he's the best coach I've had in any sport throughout my whole life. He's taught me many things about wrestling and just how to be a man in general. And I think he has prepared me to be an adult and go out in the real world and achieve big things. That's all I have to say.
My name is Wesley Littleton, and if I were to say one thing about Vaughn or about our club team program is that he just doesn't cut any corners. He's building this program stone by stone and just doing everything right and making sure that us kids know what's right. And he's just changed my life for the better, really put everything into perspective. And I'm just super grateful for him and this program and all the coaches he's brought along. And yeah, thank you.
This last speaker, I wanted to introduce here is Geronimo Pena, and the thing about Geronimo is this is his first year with me, and it's been a blessing to have him here. But one of the coolest things about Geronimo is he is one of the 12%, right, of the population in America that has applied to West Point Military School to be accepted into West Point Military School. So this is a very proud moment for me to just be up here with him, along with these guys. But I did want to acknowledge that with him.
So like Vaughn said, I'm Geronimo Pena. So over the course of my life, I've stationed into many countries. I've lived in Japan and Italy, and I wrestled my freshman year. I did not do very good at all. Sophomore year, I wrestled in Italy, and then my junior year, I wasn't able to wrestle. And so I finally came back around the summer of my junior year, and I wasn't able to wrestle, but I came back as a senior to wrestle. And Vaughn, honestly, he's the best coach I've ever had. Like, moves are clicking that has never clicked before. He not only he goes in depth, he comes up to you, he helps you. And I think it's him being a wrestling coach is very hard, because not only like you have to teach separate people like things that work for them, if that makes any sense. And not only that, like the mental toughness that it takes to wrestle it's really hard. Many people quit because they can't handle it. And like freshman year, I was like verge of quitting because I won my first match and lost every match after that. Sophomore year, I won like maybe 7 matches out of like 35. And it was hard, but now I actually have a very good chance with Vaughn. He's helped me so much, and he's a fantastic coach. And he puts a lot of effort and work not only into our program for the high school, but for the club team. He stays after school. He helps them. There's 85 kids running around screaming, and he's over there like nothing. So I just like to say he's awesome.
Well, pretty humbling words is all I would have to say to be around these kids, and to say the least, it's we're doing some magical things over with the Hawk Wrestling Club and at Skyview High School. It's going to take a lot of years, right, to build everything, but we're here to do the hard work, and we are, and we just have so many fantastic people a part of our little community that it's really honoring to be a part of it. And so I want to thank you guys very much for having us, taking a moment out of your busy day and bringing some light to things and sharing this moment, this opportunity for us. So do you guys have any questions? I hope you do.
Go ahead. Any comments or questions?
First of all, I'm very impressed. I think what you're teaching these kids is a successful future for them as adults. So I think it's imperative and very good what you're doing.
Thank you.
And they respect you and are very grateful for you. So that says a lot about you. You mentioned wrestling opportunities, because you said there's 85 kids, and we have so many in our Treasure Valley.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of kids who could probably benefit from this. What do we have to do to try to get these other clubs going?
Sure. Well, I think the thing is word of mouth, right? Word of mouth, talking to people about it, right? Wrestling's a fantastic tool to developing a person, right? I think one of the things is that it teaches you resilience, and right, I think we could all use a little bit more of that these days, as we grow up through tough times and learning how to work through them, right? And deal with difficult situations and not give up. How about that, right? Let's persevere through these things. Wrestling is kind of unique in the fact that there's no timeout, right? So if you're having a hard time, you better figure it out, right? You better learn how to work through it, right? And you got to do it now, right? And so, again, it's promoting it, it's talking about it, it's a positive, we bring a positive atmosphere to our kids, right? We're not overboard, over the top, hardcore coaches, right? We're trying to build young men and women, right? That's what we're trying to do here, right? And let's not lose sight of that, right? And so I think, that's one of the best ways, and just getting them out for it, asking questions, encouraging them. Yeah, great question.
Anyone else with comments, questions?
I don't have questions, but thank you.
Yes.
It takes big hearts and a lot of time and dedication, and thank you, because your hard work shows through these kids, and they are the reason that each and every one of us I know are here, and they're the reason that we meet.
Yeah.
But it's so great to get the opportunity to see them and what they're doing and what they're interested in, and then also to get to see the work that's happening in the buildings and for all kids.
Sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
So I would echo the same thing. I'm a huge proponent of sports for children in general. I think
Yeah.
there's so many things that we learn. Kudos to you for being the kind of coach that they talk about you to be. I just think it's amazing. For your club, for the Hawks, how does that membership work? And what age groups do you have right now? Like, is there more in one age group just for functionality purposes?
So right now during the high school season, we're predominantly a K-8, right? And then once high school season is over, that'll become a conglomerate. And then the timeframes will shift. You know, we'll probably take the older kids and kind of keep them on a different time frame than the younger kids. But right now with high school taking place, you know, our club practice starts at 6 o'clock or 5:30. We get done at 7, right? And so, but yeah. So I forgot the second part of your question was.
I think you kind of answered it all the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote notes. I just was wondering the functionality of how it was working.
Yeah.
And your lack of growth, does that have to do with staffing?
Well, you know,
Like your capped growth?
No. Recently, it's kind of been a waterfall effect. It's like all of a sudden, it's like we've had 2 years where we've been talking with people and working with the community, and then all of a sudden we have about 10 people that want to come in and coach and be a part of it. And then this influx of kids that, you know, and it's all parent referral, right? As parents saying, hey, come and be a part of this, come check this out, see what we're doing, you know? And so it's you know, initially, yes, but now we're outgrowing where we're at right now. We're to the point where we actually had I hate to say this, but we had a parent had called, and she has 4 boys, and she's like, I can't put my boy, and they're big kids, big strong kids, and she's like, I don't want to put them in there because I don't want them to fall on somebody, you know. So they said, we'll come back whenever you guys split the 2 teams up, because it's, you know, it's a chore, and you know, it takes a village to raise these young kids.
Yeah.
You know, but we're gonna keep working at it though. Yeah.
I just had a quick comment. I appreciate students that are here, because when students talk the way they talked about their coach, that's integrity, that is character, and that is what we're all here for. And if we didn't have business to do tonight, I would sit here and listen to all these guys all day long. I mean, really, that's my favorite thing to do, is listen to the successes.
I might caution you listening to a couple of them.
And then on top of that, or to piggyback on that, for you as a coach to talk about your administration in that school speaks very highly of what's going on in that school and the culture that is going on in that school.
Yeah.
So that's what I get excited about also. So that is running downhill. That culture is being taught to those students. And so much appreciated. Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You bet. You bet. Good. Thanks, guys. You guys that are with our party, we can actually exit now if you'd like.
Unless you want to stay here for the rest of the night. It'll be exciting.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Take care. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
It's like we're moving in shifts.
Yeah.
The next shift. All right, so next on the agenda, we have another special recognition, and I think this is pretty dang exciting. So Superintendent Russell.
Trustee Kirkman, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Cody Krebs. Mr. Krebs is the director of our informational services team, and he received a very special award
There is a organization called IETA, which is a group of educational, IT educational folks that get together every year. They have a conference and they select a director of the year. We're very fortunate to have Mr. Krebs, and he was selected as the IT IETA Director of the Year. You can see his picture there. He likes awards, and you can tell by that, but also just this award is great to honor him, but also our IT team. Just incredible. They all deserve awards, and I hope at some time we get a chance to tour our service, our facilities over there and see some of the things that they do. But just want to recognize Mr. Krebs. He's incredible and does a great job for the kids of this district.
Mr. Krebs, will you please stand so everyone can see who you are, and we'll give you a big round of applause. Example of the staff that we have, the caliber of people that we have working in this district. So thank you, and to your team. I know it's not just one person now, but it is the team. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're gonna stick around, just make sure everything in IT runs like it's supposed to?
I didn't know about this one. I have one more on me.
Okay. See how we plan that?
Yeah.
What would then do the
I'm not getting it.
All right, well, thank you. Well done. Next on the agenda, we have NAMP Education Association update. Is Brian here? Mr. Coffey?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Coffey, president of the NAMP Education Association. Thank you for giving the association this time to talk at the meetings. It's very much appreciated. Hopefully you received my comments ahead of time. I want to pare that down a little bit. I don't need to talk about all those things on there. I wanted to talk about the cell tower.
Chairman,
Yeah.
Brian, I did not send the comments because you sent them in an email, and I didn't know if your commentary was what you wanted posted on so I just put the topics on the website.
Yeah, we just have the topics here, which is fine.
I will forward the email to them though.
It was so funny. Too.
It was funny, but I was like, do you want me to post that?
Yeah, I don't care. I'm an open book. Yeah,
we have the topics here. So.
Yeah, so the cell tower is weird for me because, and I said I wouldn't wear my tinfoil hat, because this is like the classic tinfoil hat moment, like, oh, the cell phone tower radiation, get me. It just struck me as odd that AT&T would want to put a cell tower on school grounds because there's so many like other places, where you could put it right down the street. There's the neighborhood Walmart, there's some private property there. So I drove around this afternoon and saw that there's one at West Park, but it's on the far north side of West Park, about as far away from the school grounds of the middle school as you could get. There is one just south of South Middle School. That's actually, it looks like it's in the storage facility property. So it's maybe, I don't know, quarter mile, maybe less than a quarter mile from the actual school. I drove to East Valley. I didn't see one in East Valley at all. So to me, I understand that right now there's no evidence that non-ionizing radiation causes cancer or other harm. But I wonder how you'd get such evidence to begin with. Hey, little Johnny, let's zap you with some radiation for 8 hours a day, and Jenny, we won't zap you and see what happens. Obviously, you wouldn't do that. It's totally unethical. But to me, that alone ought to maybe give some pause. Like, why don't we do that? It's so safe. And if you do allow the cell tower to be on the property, then you're creating a wonderful kind of experiment. Because now you have one right on the grounds, you have one a little bit further away, and one school where there isn't one at all. So 30 years, you can check the data, see if there's some nice little cancer clusters from the folks that went to Lone Star.
Okay.
I just don't know why you'd want to do that. Especially then, obviously, I'm sure it'd be really secure, but I mean, stuff can fall down. So you have a 150-foot freestanding tower on the playground. Like, I just don't really get it. So I just wanted to be a voice to at least have you pause and think about that. $1,000 a month is like almost virtually nothing for $100 million budget. 12 grand a year is 1/1200%. So the money is obviously not an issue. So it seems odd to me.
Okay.
The other thing, I wasn't really on the topic because it hadn't come out yet, but I just want to give a shout out to the district and Ms. Hamlin and Dr. Russell about raising the sub pay. So during the time of COVID, existing staff have been compensated financially for covering classes, which before we did that for free. much to the, displeasure, of the people. We did it to cover when we had to, but to me, it was not a great system. And so I understand there are market forces, that are perhaps driving the idea that we're paying more, but it was increased recently. And I just want to say anecdotally, it's made a difference for sure. I don't think that there would be the consistent coverage that we provided over the past couple of months for sure, especially this winter, without that compensation. I have seen more subs in the building recently. I know that people are hiring, so I can report, at least in my building, there's a lot more actual subs around. So there's less coverage that's needed to be provided. So that's just much appreciated, and I want to thank you for that. So hopefully that could continue after the time of COVID. I know that financially it can be a challenge because some of the COVID money is being used to pay for that. But I know that does make a difference. So on behalf of your staff, thank you for that. That's all I have.
Is that it?
Yes. Any questions for me about anything?
Any questions? Mr. Hoffman? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And
Next.
Chair, I did already load that in for board docs, so it's accessible for you and the public.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is trustee update. So we'll start. Trustee Taylor.
So this is just our general update about everything, just for her. So I have had a really eventful few weeks. I was able to start my tours, so meeting with a lot of our principals so far. I've been able to hit all 3 of our high school principals. I've had a few meetings with our superintendent, Randy, who's not here tonight. Oh, Randy is here, yes. So these meetings have been phenomenal. I have felt truly blessed and mostly awe-inspired to watch our people work. It's so hard because there's so much that you want to be able to say. I wish that everybody got the opportunity to share my day with me when I get the opportunity. It's truly a blessing to go in and get to understand what our educators do. I was able to have a meeting with our SPED. I was able to follow that with a meeting with the Boys and Girls Club that really talked about how they synergistically work with our district. Overall, the last few weeks have just been eye-opening. I'm super excited about that. We are working on some ideas of bringing more people into the district for education for the community. I think that that's been a really great and positive thing as well. Overall, I'm tired. I'm exhausted because, I still have 4 kids, family and work, but it's truly been such an amazing experience. So I just think that it really is becoming a journey to get to talk to and understand each individual person, and I look forward to more. I feel like I've just really skimmed the knowledge of what there is to know within our district. So I do know that there's a lot more work ahead. I already have a lot of that scheduled. I will echo, in Columbia today, we had a sub, absolutely hilarious. I was with the principal there, the sub got moved and he just wanted us to stop so we could watch his class so we could pee. That was literally the conversation, so that was great, but it was so wonderful to see, those positions being filled. It was so amazing to get to have those conversations because that's the role of the day. But overall, it's just been awesome to go in, see, share all of the grace. It's been amazing. The communication has been phenomenal. I have felt nothing but support. So that's been my chaotic few weeks, but it's been wonderful.
Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Pearson.
Well, next week I'm going to start coordinating principals. I'm meeting Greg tomorrow and going to the arts and integration at the Centennial on March 3rd. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to meet with Cindy, the director of the special ed, tomorrow also, maybe go visit some of those facilities. So it's definitely been a jump and go. I've been sworn in on the 18th. It's been really busy, but it's been really neat to see how our system is run and here in Napa, and it's been great.
Mrs. Simpson.
Just a general update. Negotiations were meeting. I'm not going to get into details, but it is an open meeting, so people are free to watch and join. But yeah, still, of course, it's early because legislature's just getting rolling, but having those meetings, and it feels really productive and good team. So excited for it. It's great.
So I've been a little busy too. I went to Columbia, did a tour at Columbia, did a tour at Skyview High School. This morning I was at West Middle School, and tomorrow I'll be at South Middle School. I'm just working my way down and then hit all the elementary schools. And here's my general take. So we got some fantastic staff. We have some fantastic teachers. We have some incredible kids. And the things that I saw at West Middle School and some of the unique opportunities that they're providing through the fusion program there at West Middle School, I love it. I wish I could just like stamp it, put it on the school, just all over the district. Teachers are in great spirits despite their workload, despite what they have going on, despite some of the troubles and things that they have going on with students and anxiety and apprehension. I get all that. But to talk to them face to face and have them tell me what's going on is just incredible. I love it. And every time I leave the school, I always let the administration know that I am available. If a teacher wants to reach out and talk to me, if they have any questions, I'm here. I want to be available for that. Met with Cindy Cook, who is our Director of Special Education. Very productive, a lot of good questions. I think I caught her off guard because I was just asking, I asked her at the beginning, what is your impression of me when we sat down? And then at the end of that conversation, I asked her the same question. And there was a completely different answer, and vice versa. And I think that's what's really important, especially now, is that we don't stop the conversation. We keep talking to people. We keep finding out, because surprisingly, I think a lot of us, not surprising, it's not even surprisingly, we're on the same page. We have the same goals. We're headed in the same direction. Some of us have different ways that we want to get there, and that's okay if we disagree. I met with Randy. He threw about 3 tons of numbers at me. I hope he didn't notice that I kind of glazed over about 5 minutes. No, it wasn't 5 minutes in the conversation, 10 minutes in the conversation. But it was good to hear the number side of it, the business side of it, what's going on, because it's important. Budgeting, all that kind of stuff is very important. I can't tell you enough, and the public, how wonderful it is to meet with Greg and to have open conversations, have straight talk. I hope he feels as comfortable telling me to be quiet and move out of the way as I maybe, well, I'd never tell you that. But we are here to support each other. So the first few weeks since our first meeting has been a whirlwind. It's been nothing but positive. I've had a couple of bumps, but man, it's fun to get out there in the schools. It's fun to listen to the students and kind of, and I always tell this when I go, I look at this whole big thing as a student in the center. And then there's all these circles, these concentric circles around that student. And those circles mean everything. It means the teacher, or it means the food that they're eating that day for lunch. It means the curriculum that they're being taught. It means the facilities that they're learning in. It means the technology that they're learning with, and all these circles, that it all focuses on that one student right in the center of that. And so that's always my focus, always going to be my focus. So I'm excited to keep going. I'm not even tired. I zing out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, eyes wide open, and my wife thinks I'm a nutcase, but I'm just ready to go. No one's up, no one else is up though. So
Let me echo though. I just want to echo, because I find those conversations to also be very positive and informative and just very real. And I think that really what happens is when we're in those situations, teachers are just really wanting that grace and understanding to explain to us what's necessary for them to do their job and keep creating those impactful results. But the leadership is amazing. I mean, I can't express to you the creative ways that these principals find to deal with their days and to balance everything. It really just has been awe-inspiring, and I don't have another word to describe it. And that's why I wish that people could just ride with me on my little tours, because I could be in the car and be like, did you see that? It was absolutely amazing. But there really are just some phenomenal things going on for our children. And it's just a really great feeling to know that, or to leave a building. So I just wanted to echo that.
okay, next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have another one?
Yeah.
Thank you. The first one is Amy Zornick Stolte. Stolte? Amy? Okay, please tell me I'm saying your name wrong if I am.
Oh, no, that was great.
And so for the record, name?
Yeah.
Okay, just the name.
Oh.
We assume that you live in the Minneapolis.
Oh, right, I do. My name, like you said, is Amy Zornick Stolt. Okay. So I'm reading this on behalf of Nadine Walworth, whom due to unforeseen circumstances could not be
Hold
here.
on, just excuse me. Can you
Can
pull the
we
mic
start
down?
over?
so-
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry,
I-
we just can't hear you. And I want to hear your.
I think the other people were taller than I was.
Well, you may have to hold it right up against your
So we got
mask.
people listening online too. So we wanna
Oh,
make sure
yeah.
they hear.
Sorry.
Sure, of course. Okay. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. My name is Amy Zornick Stolte. I am reading this on behalf of Nadine Walworth, whom due to unforeseen circumstances could not be here tonight. My name is Nadine Walworth. I have 3 small children. 2 attend Roosevelt Elementary. I am also a member of the Treasure Valley Education Alliance. We are a group of concerned parents, teachers, and community members in the Treasure Valley working together to support educators and all students for learning and the common good. I believe the reason we are all together in this room is because we care about children. We collectively want their future to be bright and help them become the best they can be. I don't think we need to talk anymore about the impact COVID has had on our hospitals and healthcare workers, but we do need to start talking about the issues that are affecting our children's mental health and how the members of the board plan to accommodate the issues kids have to deal with. Issues like sick parents, deceased parents, lost jobs, poverty, ongoing illness, and how you plan to support kids through this traumatic time. The last 2 years have been tough, especially on children. Researchers are currently evaluating the impacts the pandemic has had on children, and the majority of findings lead to children experiencing trauma, having social, emotional issues through losing a parent or caregiver, but not from mask wearing. I compared the Boise School District's and Nampa School District's number of teacher and student absences in the past month. Since the first week of January, the Boise School District has an absent rate of 10.2 absences per 100 teachers and kids. Nampa reported 14.8 absences per 100 teachers and kids. Boise didn't have to close any schools. It is apparent that the only way forward is treating COVID as any other infectious disease. It is not going away, and we need to have a plan to deal with it when it flares up in the future. The Idaho Department of Health and Welfare has a draft and a list of all other infectious diseases they have a plan for: measles, chickenpox, strep throat, lice, scabies, etc. We are suggesting that the district adopt a similar policy for COVID, just like the other illnesses people get. Pretending it's nothing without any plan is not a good idea. Even flu can get you sent home from school. COVID doesn't seem to have any rules in the Nampa district. It appears that the numbers are subsiding again. However, as we have seen in the past 2 years, there will likely be another wave coming. It may not be until fall, but I am suggesting the school board be ready with a plan so we can make sure children are able to stay in school and classes don't get disrupted again and things don't get shut down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Monica Murphy. Monica. So we'll give you 3 minutes. I forgot to say that. And I started the clock when you started over again too. So Amy, so 3 minutes.
I don't know. My name is Monica Murphy. I am a home educator of 11 children. I run a volleyball club here in Nampa. I also run a homeschool cooperative in Caldwell that has over 370 students. I'm coming to talk to you about a policy in your handbook, or your athletic handbook, that I deem discriminatory toward home educated, or what I would consider other schoolers, children that are not in brick and mortar classrooms. I appreciate your mission and vision statement that you said in the beginning of, sorry, I'm a little nervous, that you said in the beginning when we first opened this meeting, that said every student needs to be treated with equality and fully engaged in extraordinary circumstances and learning experiences. And I consider every student, all of those in your district, regardless of whether they meet in your brick and mortar schools or are home educated or are in charter schools or private schools. The policy that I'm bringing to your attention has to do with sports. In the Nampa School District, only in Idaho, the Nampa School District has a policy that says homeschooled or non-public schooled students cannot try out for certain sports that have a cut policy. Wrestling and football do not have a cut policy. Baseball, volleyball, they have a cut policy. All I'm asking is for fair tryouts for those students that are in the district or in the school's vicinity to be able to compete at the same level that any other student is given the opportunity to. I have daughters that play volleyball and at Skyview High School, and it was an amazing circumstance that happened to us where they normally cut players and anybody who's not in the school. If there is space after they've made their selection, they can invite them back to participate. Yes. However, the athletic department at Skyview decided to keep a number of players so that my homeschooled players could play this year, which I thought was a phenomenal thing and a good representation of what you want your schools and administration to do. All I'm asking is the policy be addressed. It is very discriminatory and non-inclusive of all of the students in your district, not just the public school ones in your brick and mortar buildings.
Thank you. Before you sit down, can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So on this request to address the board, you put NSD policy 33-203. There's a statute which is 33-203. Are you referring to the statute or are you referring to a Nampa School District policy?
Well, it was hard for me to understand actually when I was looking through the handbooks and trying to give you the information that you're requesting. So I have the handbook copy in front of me and it doesn't have any numbers associated to what's going on.
Okay.
So I think, yes, it must be a statute. So I apologize of my
I
ignorance
just
in that
wanted to make sure
regard
we're
because
clear
I'm not
on
sure.
that. So, all right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Did we have this, that statute? Do you want to? Okay.
JC Johnson. I think I got your name right this time.
You
right,
did.
JC?
Good job. Thanks. All right, can you hear me or do I need to be closer?
Grab it and pull it out.
How about that? No, yes, there we go. Okay. I'm JC Johnson. I'd like to comment on a couple of things from the agenda tonight. First, I noticed from the consent agenda that another teacher is resigning as of this evening, I think. And that makes 21, if I counted correctly, since the start of the school year. While I wish these teachers well and absolutely understand the reasons that someone may feel they need to leave mid-year, I'm really concerned about this trend in our school district. Many of the teachers who've resigned last year and this year are leaving teaching altogether. I can't say that I blame them, hearing about some of the many difficult things, difficult student behaviors and the exposures to illness this year, along with the stresses of daily life here in Nampa. The really concerning part to me, though, is how many are leaving the Nampa schools and not waiting until the end of the school year. Is this normal for Nampa? Because I was a teacher and it was not normal when I was teaching. There were 9 requests for resignations between August and February of pre-COVID, the year 19 to 20. Though not all asked to be released mid-year. The stability and quality of education relies very much on the stability of the teachers and the staff in a school district. When teachers leave, their experience and extra training goes along with them. This makes it difficult to implement new ideas or to expand programs that are currently working really well, as you mentioned earlier and what you've seen in the district. I'm wondering, and parents along with me, other parents would really like to know what your plan is as a board to keep the teachers that we have here and really support them so they'll want to stay. I'm wondering if you might be able to address this in a committee or a letter to the parents, something like that, so that we have some idea of what your plans are. Secondly, I don't know what my time is, I'm sorry. For the COVID data available online today, there were still 56 unfilled substitute requests last week. Well, that's a big improvement over the previous weeks, and I'm sure the sub-pay that Mr. Coffey mentioned helped a lot. I remain concerned about those unfilled classrooms without qualified substitute teachers in them. These disruptions to learning continue to make academic and social progress difficult and stressful. 3 of you campaigned against social emotional learning this fall. Have you begun to see the need for it in our classrooms yet? When you do, I'm sure you will when you spend enough time in there. I hope you'll share what you're learning and about the important place it has in helping our students learn to cope, ask for help, and build community and relationships within their peer groups.
30 seconds.
Finally, I've been encouraged by the comments that many of you guys have made regarding the upcoming levy, and I hope you'll publicly announce your support and encourage your supporters and community members to vote on March 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, that's all the public comments I've had. We have, all right, so next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion for the
I move we approve the consent agenda.
second. Okay.
I second.
All right, it's been motioned by Trustee Simpson and seconded by Trustee Taylor. All in favor? Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, on to new business. So you're gonna go through every single one of those?
No.
All right. Next item on the agenda is an RFQ recommendation for architectural, and I just covered it up, so
Architectural services.
yeah, there you go. Services, all right.
So in an effort to kind of set us up for future success, I'm trying to lay out the process that we follow once we adopt a policy that we'll talk about a little bit later in the meeting. And I'm basically following through what that policy says now, even though we don't necessarily have that in force today. And it's also aligns tightly with Idaho Code 67-2320, if you're bored and want to go look.
It's your job. And
that is why we're going through this process. And what we want to do is give you the opportunity to tell us that you approve us to use these architects, so we can go through and start working on hopefully lining up some of our summer projects after this approval and getting as many done. Right now, we've heard for a few examples is East Valley's up and due for a roof replacement. It's due, but the supplies for it may not be available in time to do it this summer. So it might be a 2023 project that we're lining up right now. And you realize that we're just barely into February of 22, and I'm already talking about doing stuff for 23. But that's the goal. I think the memo kind of outlined what we were going for here today. So with that, Chairman and trustees, I would be glad to answer any of your questions about what we're trying to do here that I haven't already answered.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
So I was privy to the previous discussion. I just have a question on the possible motion. Is there a reason that you've asked us to approve until 2026? Just because that term seems, like I'm the person who's like, why would we sign a 5-year contract? I don't know what's gonna happen, say 2020.
So
what was the reason for that year of ask?
The statute allows us to authorize us to use this list for 5 years.
Right.
I'm actually asking for a little less than 5 years to align it, so we will update this again in like 4 years and 9 months or something, something like that, or maybe 6 months. That way, we're doing it over the summer, so we've already aligned and done all our summer projects, and we're just doing one extra thing here in kind of what would typically be a lull for the district and the business that we do each and every day. That summertime's a little easier to get stuff in front of you guys and have something to put on an agenda, typically. Not always, but sometimes. So that was kind of the game plan there. The ask was for us to do the projects that are just the average everyday projects. Mm-hmm. So those are the HVAC in a building, a roof on a building, the simple things that we do just to keep the buildings and the maintenance. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, and I read through all of them.
And
I was really just curious about the year, just because I looked at comparable ones. So I just looked at West Data because that's my go-to, and it was a 2-year. And so that's why I just was inquiring about the years.
Yeah, it's one of those that I didn't want to bring it in front of you too often.
Right.
But I also don't want to make it too hard for myself to get my job done.
Right.
So there's a balance here. So If you guys want to change the motion and make the time shorter, that would be your choice. I
But we'd
put
just
forward.
be here in another 6
Yeah,
months or a
Yeah,
year.
exactly, doing the same thing again. And,
Well-
and for me, that was what I wanted to avoid, is doing it unnecessarily. You know, but if you guys have a different opinion, I'll do what you guys ask.
No, of course,
Essentially.
and I was wanting to make sure that I was just looking for the functional reason of giving that more time, because I don't foresee you needing to do it every year. I think that would be way too much. And so when I was looking for just natural term of time, because it does take quite, especially now with construction just being what it is, it's gonna take time anyway, so I will be, right? But I also, in this particular industry, with all of the changes that we see now and will see, I don't think it's ever best practice to be married to something for too long, but you have given us 4 options and due diligence has been done. So that's why I was just asking about the years, literally just to make sure, you know, too short, too long, just it was on my mind.
Okay. And I would say that, you know, we gave you all the information. And I would say that every architect really did meet the qualifications and give it we had to kind of start somewhere. So we felt 4 was a good number to start with.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to do 5 or 3, that is something that you could give us as the direction. So that's all there. I had to give something as a starting point.
Yeah, but I love that you even scored them. I thought it was very, I wish everybody gave me that much information. It was awesome.
Yeah, well done. Any other questions or comments for staff?
I just was kind of thinking along the same lines that it wouldn't preclude you if this was the motion to, in 2 years from now, if there was another company that's doing well and maybe outperforming somebody that's on here, that it wouldn't stop us from just bringing it before the board again, if that's a change that needed to happen, because this is our agreement, right?
Right.
Not necessarily a contract with these actual businesses.
Correct. And it is within state statute that you have that ability at any time. We can say we want to redo the list.
All right, well, if there's no further questions or comments for staff, I will entertain a motion for this item.
I move to approve the district to use Design West Architects, LKV Architects, Studio H Architects, and Hutchison Smith Architects for professional architectural services less than $50,000 per project until July 31st, 2026.
And motion by trustee Simpson, any second?
I second.
All right, it's been seconded by trustee Taylor. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. You're just standing there for a reason, so.
I'm standing there because the next item is mine too. So with our wireless bid that we accepted last meeting, we received an objection to that. So now we're bringing that back forward to you per state code that's referenced there, that we wanted to give you guys a chance to hear the objection from that. So we have our party from Juniper that's here to give their point. We told them that they're going to have 5 minutes. And then we have Mr. Cups here, who's going to give the district's point of view for about five minutes. We'll be glad to answer any of your questions. And then again, in the memo, we kind of give you our recommendation of where we think you should land. But this is the process that our legal counsel has recommended to us.
Okay. Board clerk, will you time that?
Yeah, I think we're both time last one.
Yeah. Because I'm going to be listening intently.
Thank you. Good evening to the board. My name is Curtis Reed, representing my colleagues with Juniper Networks and partner with Levy Solutions. I wanted to take this opportunity and thank you for allowing us the time to present. We have some local Idaho residents here. I'm from Colorado, so I came in for this meeting specifically. So again, thank you. And I think it's important that we did it in person in this day and age of online transactions. It's too easy sometimes to hide behind an email or voicemail or social media. So the opportunity we got to come in and talk through this issue in person is much appreciated. We have been working with the IT team for Nampa School District for over a year. In fact, almost to the date. We came in, there was an RFI a year ago in January of 21. That was for gathering technical specifications and learning kind of industry best standards. We participated in that. We participated in a proof of concept or POC effort where the district IT staff led by Scott Carlson took a bunch of vendor technologies in and evaluated those for over 3 weeks at a time and kind of learned what was in the best interest of the school district. That effort put forth a RFP in October that listed all the technical specifications for what the district thought would be the most ideal and beneficial technology in wireless space for the school district. And the reason that we objected is to it. By the way, we didn't take that consideration lightheartedly. We're not trying to be vindictive or losers or anything like that. But there was a number of vendors that disregarded those technical specifications or tried to sell around those and provide the school district with a cheaper option, but not what they bid, not what they spec. So after communication with the district, this was the prescribed recourse for bringing that objection to the district. The premise for our objection really is down to the fact that the proposed award clearly did not offer the district with a solution that met their stated technical specifications. In the Wi-Fi side, this district is already well above other districts that we see and work with in using what we call the 5 gigahertz spectrum. So it's a Wi-Fi spectrum that's a cleaner and more capable spectrum for connecting devices to the internet and resources. And the district is already leveraging that very efficiently. In the proposed specifications, they continued to want to leverage that almost exclusively with Wi-Fi access points that had dual 5 gigahertz radios, simply meaning I can have an access point that has double the capacity because I'm not serving 2.4 to 2.4 gigahertz radio clients and 5 gig. I can serve both clients on 5 gigahertz radios. And today, the school district leverages that technology. Thank you. Today, the school district has over 2,400, 2440 radios to be exact, that are supporting all the one-to-one computing initiatives and client devices for kids learning. Our solution was very similar to that. We had proposed 2,346 radios in the 5 gigahertz space to continue that development. The solution that was proposed as an award is less than 1,200. It's 1,173 5 gigahertz radios. Half of the radios in those access points will not be utilized by the students in learning environments because it's in a different spectrum. So even though it was cheaper, and the rules of E-rate certainly are weighted towards economies of scale. We have to follow the rules, and price is a major consideration of that. We just felt like we had to bring this to the board as an objection in the best interest of the learning environment for the school district of Nampa. We would participate if the specifications were reduced and it was a level playing field. We would be happy to re-propose a solution that met those technical specifications. But as the scoring matrix confirmed, we were the only vendor that actually met all technical aspects, but we weren't the cheapest. And so it's a matter of whether the district wants to adopt a solution that doesn't meet their team's own requirements just because it's cheaper. So
30 seconds.
I will render my time if you have any questions for me.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, board trustees, for I went ahead and just wrote mine down because I met with Scott, who is the our network engineer, and we had a pretty big team that evaluated these, and we did have the RFI process, and the one that won, the Meraki solution, was also part of that demo. So all bids were graded based on a scoring rubric in 3 areas. The Ednetics proposal scored lower in the technical requirements because they did not meet all of the specified criteria. We wrote the RFP based on the specifications provided by Data Solutions for the Juniper Mist wireless solution. As such, Data Solutions scored perfect in the technical specifications portion of the rubric. To comply with USAC requirements regarding bidding the RFP bidding and RFP writing, RFPs must be written so all providers can compete. We cannot specify anything that will only allow one provider to submit a successful bid. The term or equivalent or statements that allow various solutions to the requirements must be written in the RFP. In this evaluation process, we graded the proposals based on their compliance with the specifications in the RFP. One of the areas of concerns with any wireless solution is capability of handling an area that is densely populated with wireless devices. We express this in the RFP by requiring access points to handle up to 40 devices simultaneously while streaming high-def video. The Juniper Mist solution complies with the specification as it is written in the RFP. The Meraki solution also complies with the 40 device requirement by using equivalent technology. This was verified by our network engineer, Scott Carlson, as he spoke with the Meraki engineers about their solution and how it meets the requirement. Meraki's solution does not meet the technical specification as written in the RFP and was given the appropriate scoring in the rubric. However, it does meet the density requirements also specified in the RFP with an equivalent solution. The overriding factor in the selection of the proposals is the fact that EdNetic's Meraki solution scored much higher in the cost category. The rubric weighs cost as the most influential factor. As such, when all the scores were totaled, the EdNetic's Meraki solution was awarded the bid. While we did not exactly get what we wanted, we feel the solution provided by EdNetics will be successful in our district and for our students.
Questions for staff? I got a billion, but
Okay.
go ahead.
I don't understand all this stuff, so this is a smart question, but I'm gonna ask it because the previous gentleman with Curtis Reed mentioned the 2,400 radios versus 1,500 radios that the new EdNetics would provide, and that the capacities, I mean, that seems significant. Is that a significant thing?
The two solutions, they just offered, one has less radios, but it offers the same density. So it's based on that 40 concurrent users with high def video. So we also had another one that wanted to do, we had another one that was part of the RP that was doing an AP every other classroom. So they said that they could meet the density requirements as well. So it really depends on the radio.
Is there significance in price difference because you've had the other company for a year? Is that,
We have not had Meraki.
I mean, no, not Meraki, the one with, or Juniper. We've had Juniper for a year.
We started the RFI process a year ago.
Okay.
They were in our schools for 30 days. I
Oh,
believe it was. Yeah. So there is a significant cost difference between their solution because there's more radios than what Meraki had, EdNetics had proposed.
okay. I don't know the significance of the radios. I wish I.
Basically, just think about it as they both, according to their engineers, and I'm not taking anything away from Juniper, he's absolutely correct. We did want Juniper. We wrote the technical specifications based on that. But Meraki can do the same thing, and we have to follow USAC laws or we don't get the E-rate funding.
And that's the cost.
Correct. The one thing that I will say is you can see the two choices that we've asked the board to pick from. We are on a time crunch. If the board does decide to throw the award away, then we will have to very quickly start the process again. And there's a very good chance that we won't meet the deadline to get it in for this year. Our wireless system is aging. It's 5 years old and it needs to be replaced. So.
Any other questions? Yeah, this is. So at the end of the day, you're confident that Meraki, the one that you chose, Cisco Meraki, will provide what we need in this district as far as wireless capability.
Yes. They both had equal share time for demo, the same density demo, and we threw everything out Meraki and it performed the same as Juniper.
All right, any other comments or questions? Any comments for Juniper? So I'll make sure we give them opportunity to respond if you have comments. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, board.
That it's now time for you guys to choose.
So, what do you think?
Well, so for comprehensive understanding, it's the award that doesn't mesh with their ask, correct? So by law, you've had to change, or by standard of this award is why the change was made.
Which change?
So
The change to choose Cisco Meraki.
yeah. So the way we did it was we set up a rubric. Each category, there's a technology.
Got it.
There's a few other categories that.
And then financial.
And financial is one of them, and they all get a score, and that score is then weighted. And the weight, you have to have, according to E-rate rules, weight has to have the highest importance.
Cost.
Cost.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm just,
sorry.
that's what I'm just verifying.
And we had cheaper solutions in the RFP that they did not meet the technical specifications.
And-
Those score high in the
And
So
this-
that split them out. They did not rate high enough to be there, but there were lower cost solutions. So it is possible to win the process in E-rate without the lowest cost solution.
It is.
Which is possible, and that's what you approved last time. And that's one of the reasons it had to come to you per state law and board policy, that since we weren't picking the lowest cost option, you had to approve it. You approved it last time, then we got our objection, so now we're here. So.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right.
Makes sense.
I will entertain a motion then for this action item.
I move to affirm the prior award to Nmedics for Cisco Meraki wireless equipment based on the analysis and rationale from the district's information services team.
Second. So motion and seconded to approve this action items. Any discussion on that motion? I think it's just important to understand, I mean, there's so much technical stuff involved here, but when it comes down to contracts, it really is. You've got this to meet, this to meet. And if they both meet them, then you look at what the law requires, and that's the cost. So I do appreciate that, and thank you to Juniper for participating in the RFI also, RFQ. So let's, motions on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, now he's done, so he's.
Yeah, well, he didn't waste any time.
No, he
was
didn't.
like,
So the next one's still mine, and this is where Mr. Coffey commented before. I felt since I was approached, it was my due diligence to bring this forward to you guys to see what your interest was. And you know, if you're not interested, I'll tell them thanks, but no thanks. If you are, I'll pursue this. I came up with an idea where it could benefit our facilities. It may not be 150-foot tower. I can't say that for sure. But you know, if I could negotiate athletic field lighting into a middle school, that would be a benefit for us. So I was trying to find what could be a win-win, but I will follow your lead, and that's why I'm asking.
So based on comments from Mr. Coffey, and I'm not going to get into the radiation and all that other kind of stuff, but why the schools? I mean, there are other locations.
There are. They asked a couple different spots. This is the one that was closest to where they need to improve their coverage, so it's in the best location for them. So they did ask
It
that.
just happens to be Lone Star.
It happens to be Lone Star Middle School. So we happen to be the property owners. They're also interested if we wanted to look at our property on the corner of Midway and Roosevelt, which would be a possible site for a new high school. So eventually there could be a school on that site too if we elected to put it there. So it would be kind of like kicking the can down the road there for that one. So the question kind of stands is What do you want?
So I'm the proud owner of 3 cell towers. So I also grew up next to one for years. I don't have a tail. So, just so we're fully clear, not saying that we shouldn't cover all aspects and make sure that, we need to bring any concern forward, but those contracts can be much larger. So for extending contracts, they can be 1-time to 2-time payouts of $30,000 to $40,000. Like these can become much bigger contracts, and multiple towers can be put together by multiple carriers. So these can actually potentially become much more revenue than what we're talking. And the basic understanding, like I said, our family has 3 towers, separate towers with multiple carriers. They are going to pick based on land zoning. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that they're looking, but when they're looking, because we're talking about the amount that it can be, and because it can become, like I said, upwards of $3,000 to $4,000. I mean, there's a lot more in there, and those multiple payments, they can be potential 90-year sources of revenue plus. I would be up to let him see what he can find. I would be up to see, running something to see how the community feels about it, but I don't see why we should cut him off from having the conversation, personally.
Yeah, I mean, conversation's always good.
Conversations are great.
And we're in no hurry. I mean, do they have a deadline that they?
I don't know that they have a deadline, but they would like us to be able to give them an answer so they know whether to move on and look for other locations, or they, have kind of landed here. So I think to honor them, I would like to work through the process to get them, yeah, we're going to do that, or no, we're not, in a relatively, I don't want to say quick manner, that doesn't feel that, but a judicious but yet expedient manner.
Sure. Well, and if it's just a reach out, right, this is your first reach. I mean, there are multiple brokerage firms that even would handle this and get multiple sites put up. I mean, like I said, I think it's worth entertaining the conversation to see what shakes out on both sides. But I also think, again, with Mr. Coffey's comments, that obviously there's more comments that would be taken, but it's just the start of a conversation.
You want to comment?
I know for me that the height of the tower was probably just the most concerning, like
the tower,
the tower, not that, like, yeah, and where, like, obviously location and kids. I mean, you put something there, kids are gonna try to climb it, right?
Well, they're super
and
secure.
so that's the
Yeah.
thing. I don't know what this.
Right.
I mean, I know what it looks like from a distance,
Sure.
but just that was my biggest concern, was like, yeah, it depends on location, right? And then proximity to kids and access, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining this cell tower fenced off, because I think they have 20 by 20. They had some dimensions in here on what they needed. I was just imagining the cell tower in the middle of the field out there. I guess I dressed it up to look like a tree or
I
something.
wasn't imagining
I would attempt not to put it in the middle to annoy everything or cause trouble.
Back in the corner or something.
So I guess I would say, just from understanding how well maintained they are, I mean, there's a lot of laws that we'll have to follow as well for access. I just think the conversation is something that you should have, knowing that it can turn into a much bigger conversation.
The possibility of reaching out to neighbors. Neighbors, aesthetic values a lot. And the neighbors that live around that Lone Star Middle School, maybe they might have some input, objection. I think it's part of the due diligence to reach out to neighbors. Hey, what do you think about a 150-foot cell tower in your kid's school?
Fair enough.
I actually think that they have to. If they're approved, I believe that there's a process that they'll have to go through with the community. If it's been a while, but.
Well, and I read it this way, and just based on previous experience, that this would be a possible motion simply for that, for you to have the conversation. We're not okay with anything. We're not, and I do think it gets the ball rolling, but provides us an opportunity to get more feedback, but isn't a hard no, and like we're moving on.
Yeah, and that was the first thing, is I wanted to see, if you guys even wanted to have the conversation. That was I didn't know. So it was like, okay, the only way I'm gonna know is to ask.
Well, I guess we're at that point. If there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion. Maybe we add in to the motion, just comment here to include conversations with neighbors about what that might be. I think it's important. But anyways, I'll leave it up to whoever makes that motion.
Oh, I need to pull up what your recommended motion was, and then I don't change it.
I
Oh, thank
move,
you.
oh, sorry. I move to authorize Mr. Durst to negotiate agreement for the board to review and act on at a future meeting, as well as to authorize the superintendent and his team to question the neighbors in the community. So we have some feedback in whatever way you see fit. We're going to do that.
Part of the process for the company. Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, it's been a motion and a second. Any conversation, any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right,
I'm out of the hot seat for a minute.
I think you're
Was
done,
that-
yeah. So
I'm not done, but I'm out of the hot seat for a minute.
Did you, what was your vote? Nay? Okay, 3-1. Did you get that, Christie?
I did, I
Okay.
just finished.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is board clerk agreement, which is an action item, and I am going to invite our board clerk up here to give us a little
Action.
background. And then vote.
The action of presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want us to read all this right now?
No.
Okay.
Well, let's start with that first. So one of the things that I think you guys appointed me and really took a lot of heart, making that you wanted to do a lot of transparency. So my first recommendation before we even go over this is going to be to table this until the February 28th special meeting to take action on it then, because we haven't posted on the website for everyone to see. You guys haven't had enough time to think it over. And so I think that would be my first thing. So woohoo, yes. Right? So we're gonna have a little fun while we're at this meeting because it's getting a little hot and heavy in here. So, and I think that's one of the things we have to do to build our trust and our unity in our community is to be transparent and communicate. And so after this meeting, I will also be emailing it to you and I will also load it onto the board docs. Part of the reason it wasn't is because once you make modifications, it says the last update, and I didn't want people to think I was changing the agenda prior to the meeting. And we want to make sure we're transparent because we're still getting research. So I'm just going to go over some key points quickly. So this contract would be between the school board and 3B Building Better Boards, Christy Lamont. And for the contract services, I did put it into 5 topics, which would be a primary assistant to the board chair and the school board members. Acts as legal capacity of clerk of the school board and performs duties required and assigned at a highly responsible and confidential manner, and it has bullet points underneath there. I don't think I need to go over those this evening since we're going to be posting it, but if you want to, ask away. I think I'm prepared. The other one is liaison for the school board to the superintendent as a means of support, and then it has those bullet points under there. The second one is, the third is the custodian of record, receives all public requests, delegates process. Oh, see, I'm already starting to talk more. I'm getting a little nervous apparently. So the custodian of record, because it's usually the board clerk. The next one is a liaison with the school board attorney when directed by the school board chair or board as a whole. I should probably give legal counsel one of these too. Right here. All right. And then the last one would be a liaison with the school district's communication public records director as when directed by the board chair and the board as a whole. One of the things that I always try to do is make sure we're communicating. So we might work as that to make sure they know what you guys want and working as that team. Let's do that. Communicate, right? I think an old, I want to say one of Charlie Dodson used to say document. So we're going to communicate. And so those are some of the services that have been aligned. And then as always, the other duties as assigned, right? Hate to throw that out. Then it has the payment information. So I just want to start by saying, it was really hard because to come up with an amount that was reasonable and efficient due to everyone's prices in this area for that. But I want you guys to remember that the reason I'm doing this is really to build better boards. Building teams is why I do everything, and building those best practices. And with the experience I bring, not only nationally but in the state, my heart is always with the students and the districts. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, and then you guys can ask me tons of questions tonight, or we'll wait till the 28th. So I did do it as a $50 per hour contracted price for the Nampa school district. That would total in $6,000 per month. That's equaling 120 hours per month contracted. I believe in previous, they were discussing 10 hours. I would say 10 hours a week is completely unreasonable with the amount of things that need done, and that this is a different capacity coming in. My average has not even been equaling 30 hours a week, but I also know I'm putting my heart into this with you guys. So I was trying to be reasonable. Plus, I do have other things I have to serve my staff and I. So no matter what happens, you're fully going to get served. Any hours worked beyond the agreed 120 hours per month will be paid at $100 per hour with consent from board chair. That would be prior, and I would say we will not do that unless we go through a process. This is still a cost break. So part of the reason I came up with this is looking at other board clerks amounts. We did just have West Ada just hired one in November, full-time clerk, $94,000, and then they also have an assistant clerk. So as you can see, I'm still coming in and I'm saving you. With being a contracted employee, even at this amount, this process is still saving you $18,800.
West Ada's clerk, staff, district employee?
Yes, she's a district employee. I would say without any clerk experience. So not only have I been a clerk, but I've also worked with school boards throughout. So I bring a whole nother level of and experience. So this person didn't have any that had been in this capacity before. And so then I have that. It also talks about it would be beginning in January because you guys appointed me on the 18th. It goes over expenses. It goes over expenses, equipment, property that the district shall be required to provide, liability insurance, termination. I'm not sure what you want me to highlight. I can highlight it all, or we can come back.
No, it's fine. There's a lot here.
And I talk really quickly. And it talks about confidentiality. That means no matter what board meeting we're at, whatever is there, that someone from 3B that has the experience would come in and act as that person if I was not here. So no matter what we are providing, I have a couple that they're retired. They have 30 to, I hate to say 40 years of experience because they will be very upset with me. They're very young. But we'll be bringing, I want to say your A team here through this process this year, and it would be a year contracted to the appointment being a year. Any questions?
Any questions? All right, I think I'm on paragraph 2 of page 1.
Yeah, that's a lot.
We'll definitely have our attorney review this also, and I think we'll put it on the agenda for the 28th because we've got nothing else going on that day. So
I'll
we'll just add it to the agenda, and we may have some more questions, some more details. I like that we're not, well, I'm making assumptions here, but I really want to make sure that the public has access to this. If we do it on the 28th, it's going to give them 2 weeks to review it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to give us time to review it. I think that's fair.
I agree.
So.
Agree. Yeah, so I appreciate the suggestion, and also Chrissy, I just want to tell you thank you. I feel like I depend on you so much and I have so many questions, and I do really appreciate how available you have been and how helpful you have been.
Excellent. I will add that I think one of the things I didn't include in any of this is that I'm scared to say this out loud because I think some of you will actually take it to heart, but I have really always said I'm a phone call away. It doesn't matter if it's the weekend. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the night, but it better be serious. Or any time of day. And I think you guys have known that since I've already been available for a Saturday meeting. I'm really there anytime you need. It's a phone call away.
Much appreciated. Thank you. All right. So this is an action item. I'll leave it up to a motion as to what action you would like to take.
I move that we make the proposal available to the community and then take action on the 28th in our next meeting to determine.
So what do we need?
Yeah,
We
what
need
do
to
we
do,
need to
we
say?
need to deal with this particular action item right here, this board clerk agreement.
Chairman,
So,
Yeah.
Chairman, permission to.
yeah,
I would recommend just making it, motion to table until.
Perfect.
Okay, so February 28th special meeting.
Thank you. I motion to table until February 28th.
okay. All right. There's been a motion and it's seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. We will revisit on the 28th. And let me just clarify, this will be on board docs tomorrow,
In a matter of minutes.
in a matter of minutes.
Perfect.
And on that note, this contract proposal may change between that tomorrow and the 28th, given input from our attorney, from the trustees, so on and so on. Okay, I just want to make sure the public understands that. This is not hard and fast.
I was trying to motion all of that at once.
Okay. All right, we have next on the agenda, a discussion information item about our supplemental levy that is coming up. And Superintendent Russell, I believe this is yours.
Yeah. Trustee Kirkman and trustees, or Chairman Kirkman, sorry, trustees, thank you. I just want to spend a few minutes this evening giving you a little information about our upcoming supplemental levy. I'm going to start with just some basic background information about what a supplemental levy is and why it's so important for the district. Then I'll share some information about what's on it and then what the administration has done to try to get the information onto our patrons. So I think it's important to start with the term supplemental. Supplemental levies have been around school districts for quite some time. They allow districts to be able to access property tax dollars and be able to use those for additional expenses that aren't usually covered in general funds from the state. However, in 2006, there was a really important piece of legislation that went through, and longtime residents may remember when the sales tax moved from 5% to 6%. There was a maintenance and operation levy that was taken away from school districts and replaced with that sales tax. Since then, and if you remember, that was around 2006, the Great Recession happened a little bit after. Because of that, many supplemental levies became essential. And there were many items on supplemental levies that are vital to the organization of a school district. If you look at our supplemental levy, we're asking for, Peter, if you could raise it up just a little bit, $8 million per year. On there, you'll see we have some things that we would consider, I guess, quote unquote, supplemental, things like transportation for our students and whatnot. But many of those things are actually vital to us. Teaching staff and some of our classified staff. We have positions on our supplemental levy that are critical for us to be able to make sure we can manage class sizes. We have our technology, all of the technology that we just discussed today. Our teacher devices, our student devices are on there. Early childhood education, which we've been very proud of this district to be able to provide more access for that. Our athletics and activities, those are the things that we have. Been nice to upgrade some uniforms, some opportunities around the band equipment, those type of things. Our curriculum is critical. We were behind as a district for many years in our curriculum. When I taught with 12-year-old reading curriculum. So this levy has allowed us to update our curriculum, and we are in a nice cycle right now where every 6 to 7 years, depending on the curriculum, we're able to go through and update. And we have a big adoption coming up soon in our English language arts in our elementary that will be coming up in another year or so. So that's a really critical one for us. Building security is another one that's on there. It allowed us to update our security cameras. So that's an important one. I mentioned the transportation already. And then our playgrounds. Our buildings are starting to age, and we have been fortunate to have patrons approve our previous levy and allow us to upgrade the playgrounds that we have in our elementary schools. This is a replacement levy. So this levy we have right now currently, which was for roughly about $13 million, will expire at the end of the fiscal year. We are asking for $8 million a year for 2 years, so that's $5 million less. You can see on the other side there, Mr. Jers is kind of showing us where Because we are asking for less, our rate is lower, and we believe the tax burden upon our patrons, at least from the district, will drop, and yet we'll still be able to meet the needs and provide some of the necessary things we have for the district. So that election is coming up on March 8th. It's an important election for us, and we are trying to get that information out to our patrons. Couple of things that we have done, and I'll share some of the things that we have planned to do. So we have had our schools inform all of their staffs and meet with their PTAs and their parents to get information. We have met with various community groups, got information out to some of our senior centers. We've met with, are going to meet with some of our partners like our busing company and ABM, who does our custodial services. We are meeting with service organizations, Kiwanis, Lions, Rotary, social media stories that we have going out every week. We have some Facebook memes. I guess that stuff is popular now. We have interviews as well. I do not love interviews, but I have been interviewed the last week or so, and mostly because I really want to be able to get information out to our public about that. So we've been able to do that and share a little bit of information about our levy. Would like to give kudos to Trustee Taylor. She has been working hard, as she mentioned earlier, to get more public folks to come in and learn a little bit. So we have some luncheons scheduled with some informational lunch and learns. We're excited about that opportunity coming up. We have a couple this week and we'll have a couple next week on that. Possibly a Facebook Live situation that could occur. So you may see me on Facebook Live. We're doing mailers out to our community as well, and I am in conversations with the city to possibly have an opportunity to just city council and do a real quick short update. So a little information about our levy, open up to discussion and answer any questions you may have.
Open for discussion or comments or questions. Come on, everybody has an opinion about the levy. Okay. Comments?
Go.
All right.
Maybe if you comment, it'll bring comment.
Well, the only comment I'm going to make right now is publicly endorse this levy. I can do that as a board member, and here's why. I had a very frank conversation with Superintendent Russell, and I asked him, can we get by without this levy? And he said, yeah, we can squeak by for another year. And I appreciate him being honest and direct with me. Then he said, but, and there's always a but, we would have to take money from this and put it over here. We would have to take money from here and put it over here. We'd have to take money from here and put it over here. And the first thing, my first thought was, okay, that to me is fiscally responsible. But then I'm thinking, again, the student in the center and all these circles around that student, and focus on what's best for that student. So when you look at that graph, $8 million a year, is it going to increase taxes? No, I don't think so, not for my taxes. Will your taxes increase? Yeah, but it's not going to be because of the district's fault. It's going to be whatever else, other forces that are going on. Do I like do I like levies? No, I wish we could fund it the way it needs to be funded, but that's just out of our control right now. So if this community wants what's best for our students, this levy needs to pass, and I support it. Now, here's the caveat. I also think that we, as a district, need to start diving a little bit deeper into our finances. And let's look at reallocating our resources if needed. Let's look at what schools might need to be, and that is due diligence, and that is public money is sacred to me. I mean, it is sacred, and we should treat it as such. We need this levy to support our students. But that doesn't mean we just get the money and then continue on our merry way. We need to get our noses in the ground and start making sure that what we're spending money on is the best way that we can spend money on for our district. So that's my point of view. That's why I support this levy, and I have every confidence that this administration will also start looking at where are we spending our resources. Let's start doing some of that. And it's going to take some time, but I have full confidence in this administration to do so.
So for the same reasons, I also support the levy. So that, I guess if that's what, and that has been a big question being within the schools and why. So I'm a longtime resident here. I don't know, a lot of people don't remember when our district was bankrupt. Had zero money. Yeah, so I mean, less than zero. We were negative millions. But so that being said, I come from a long line of people who worked to support our levies, the NAPA boosters, which I'm also an NAPA booster. We've always done our best to get the word out. What really, really helps, I think, is going to the schools and understanding individually how they use levy monies. That's really the purpose of our Lunch and Learns, is to really bring all of that information into people who are truly interested and want to be able to conversate about the levy. I agree with our chair. I do believe that it's time that we get a little bit more forensic with our accounting, just because so many people want understanding. I don't find anything wrong with that. I think that questions, I think you should question anything and everything. I always do. So that's the goal of our Lunch and Learns, just to really help change the conversation. What's tough for us, like a trustee person brought up, we were sworn in on the 18th. This was something the board approved right before we came in, or the previous board before us. So we've just only had a little bit of time to work with it. And that's why we're really working on different ways and different avenues to get the information out there. The vote is on March 8th. Again, because we can openly support the levy, or, you know, help you guys with understanding, whereas our teaching staff cannot ask you or tell you why or to support. So there's a difference in how we can talk to you and communicate with you, and how our staff can talk to you and communicate with you. I also have looked at the financials. It's needed. We should know that just because we have to use it to pay staff, we can't have a 10,000-mile long idea of what education should provide us and then pay it with a rock. So it doesn't work that way. It needs real tangible money in dollars. So again, I think that these Lunch and Learns and these different initiatives will be great. In meeting with the Boys and Girls Club, part of the reason I met with them is because Melissa, who is the operator, used to be on the Yes Committee for the last levy. They had a little bit of money left over. We didn't feel like we would have enough time, or I didn't even have a place that I could really send them with those funds, because we don't have a Yes Committee or another committee working on that in tandem with our district. So it's very important that we get the word out. And that's everything. Just wanted to say I'm still learning about all this, so I can't really go either way right now. I'm hoping, and I don't know, again, I met with Randy and it was just no multi-million-dollar budget that I'm not used to. But that being said, from a community or somebody who's in the community, I would think that they might ask questions like, would this, something like this, because they're going to be looking and thinking about that money that came in because for COVID. I know that's what people are going to be thinking, and I know that there's different qualifications to receive that money, and I know we haven't received the third tier, so it's not sitting in our account somewhere. That being said, if we can, this maybe make us a little more independent from that money, so that, I don't know,
Just levy more independent.
make
from
us
the
more,
district?
yes.
Well, I mean, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a large part of the reason why we went from 13 million to 8 million. We have been working to bring it down. And yes, many things have snowballed since 2006, right? To get our levy to where it was. But we have been working to get that down. And I know that the teachers and staff in current programs, like we already have a plan, and some of those ESSER funds has helped us to say, you know what, we can take a few more off or sooner than what we had anticipated, which then is part of why this number is smaller than that 13 million than the levy that's about to expire.
Chair Kirkman, if I could respond to Trustee Pearson's questions. We have received federal funds. I think that's a very legitimate question. I would expect our patrons to ask that. Would like to add a little clarification with it. So going on with what Trustee Simpson did say, we have lowered it because of that. We have been able to use, now the federal government, when it gives you funds to school districts, it earmarks how you can and cannot use that money. There's always strings attached with federal money. They have allowed us to use some of those funds for some of the things that we have need here. So we have been able to use some, with our previous levy, we've caught up on some big maintenance items around our roofs. So we were able to drop it from that. We have a roof at Skyview, Napa High, we were able to fix some of those. And other ones that has allowed us to use is our HVACs and upgraded those as well. So we've used those federal funds to help drop it. The key with federal funds though is they are one time. So we do have them and they have a lifespan. And once they run out, they run out. So to respond, as I mentioned, when Trustee or Chair Kirkman and I met, yes, we could get by for 1 year. It would not be a permanent solution. It would be a kick in the can down the road. And the second key component with those federal funds is the primary purpose of those was to close learning gaps for students because of the pandemic. And so if we were to take that money, as Chairman Kirkman had mentioned, we would be taking it away from some of the interventions and things that we have put in our schools. Just a couple so that folks know, we have expanded our summer school programs. We have done after school programs that we have included. We have tutoring. We have hired extra staff to lower class sizes and provide additional instruction for our students. So those are the things that we would lose if we used our federal money to make up some of these.
Well, and just to expand upon that, how great is it that we have an opportunity to pre-fund our district for like once? It just really feels like something exciting, especially when we have so much community involvement. And we just need to remember, just because we passed funds doesn't mean we still don't get to be involved or be a part of the solution or really be a part of the process, but also understanding that in order to provide our kids the education that they need, there is a cost attached to that. And again, the fact that we even have to pay current teachers and staff out of money we don't already have already puts us at a deficit.
It's just, I'm looking at, I mean, just listening to the students earlier, I almost said this morning, it kind of feels like that, earlier. And that wrestling program, looking at the money that would be used for athletics and activities and performing arts and music. And, you know, I mean, just on a personal note, I have 2 girls that are in dance and, you know, they love it. And I see what it does for them. And I see what these kinds of activities do to support our kids. And I would hate to see, you know, again, focusing on that student, I would hate to see any of that go away, even for a year, and kick that can down the road. So,
and just a reminder, schools have a list of everything that they use levy funds for. So if you're really wanting to know or wanting to have a bigger conversation with your child's school, you can call and ask what they use those levy funds for. And I guarantee you that principal is going to provide you a list because they are very dependent on those funds for what they do.
I wish they didn't have to be, but they are.
Randy has those lists as well. Randy just volunteered to be the man.
All right, so yeah, thank you. I just want to take that opportunity and share my public support for this particular levy. The next levy down the road, who knows, might be different, but I really do think that we need to start looking at resources, where we're allocating those resources. Did you have a comment, Randy, or you just stretching?
No, I had a comment.
You're gonna have to get to a mic. So, sorry, that's what happens when you have a comment.
So one thing I want to, if you go back to the actual document there, Peter, the levy. Yes, I know.
We were until he raised his hand.
It is. So one thing I keep really talking about, the one thing in this area that we're hitting hard is property tax values are going out of the roof. And everybody's really freaking out about their property tax values. And there's a reason we have this little graph here. The one, and if a lot of people don't understand this, and if we can explain to people more and more, when we're only asked for a dollar amount, it doesn't matter what everybody's property tax is going up because we're not getting any more dollars. So all it does is spread that over more people, over more businesses, over more property and that. So the reality of the situation, that graph is just pure math. We're not doing anything to manipulate it. It's really just, we're asking for less money, $5 million less money, regardless. Even if property taxes didn't go up at all, we would still have less dollars out of people's pockets to do what we're trying to do for kids than if we did not, if property taxes went up.
Well, and I know the previous board also expressed multiple times just how fiscally responsible we've had to be to get to here. So the district has kept its promise to the community each year in lowering that levy, and they've done that through
I mean, it's really creative if you sit down and take a look at what they've done, but you have to understand that you have to redistribute because it is, you know, it is math. So when you still need money, but the community wants you to take less and less money, you get really creative with those solutions. So SR funds aside or any other funding, it's just amazing to watch how that levy's come down when it was such a necessity when it was proposed. So good job there.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Good. That was an information item, so no action is needed. So we'll move on to the next finance update. You don't even have to raise your hand for this one, right?
No,
Just
no,
call
this is
on
me.
Discussion information item.
All right, so generally I just come up here and tell you everything's perfect. You guys don't need to worry about anything. So if you guys have any questions on that, obviously feel free to ask. The reality of the situation, everything is really good. I mean, I'll be straight up with the fact that the State Board of Education moved to standard average daily enrollment instead of average daily attendance. It was a potential $8 million shift. Now, are we going to get that $8 million? Possibly not. One was $4 million to the bad if we were staying ADA, $4 million to the good if we were staying with the PSIP discussion. I know we've talked about that before. The state's going to come back in July and say, we didn't have enough money for you. Here's what we're going to give you in reality. Won't know that until July, maybe the end of June. Remember, our fiscal year ends June 30. So that's going to be a fun little transaction to deal with. But that's where we are. But things are good. I don't see how we're going to get any worse. Hopefully we can carry a good fund balance in the next year to make sure we can do some good things for kids.
So as former trustee Ross would say, what would she always say? What's the bottom number? What's the end number? We're still on the.
Yeah, so we're doing really well. I mean, in December 13th, I was scared. December 14th, when they made that change and said we are going to average daily enrollment. I do worry about next year. I think one of the things that's truly hitting us, one, we have some enrollment projections that we're already looking at. The other side is if the state legislators don't do something associated with average daily enrollment again, I worry we're going into a world where attendance isn't as big of a deal to parents and students. And so if that was to hit us, that is a big financial blow to us, and we'll have to figure out some things to how to deal with that and figure out how to right size at that point in time. The bad thing is you can't right size with bad attendance because you still need those teachers to be there for every student that's enrolled. Right. So it's really hard to right size your budget when it's just attendance based. If it's just enrollment based, which we think we have a little decline with some in the charter movement and that kind of thing, that we can deal with our budget. But if it's ADA funding, it really is going to be a big thing for us and going into next year's budget.
Chair Crickman, if I could elaborate just a little, I just wanted to share how critical that decision is every year by the state board, and now it's becoming an annual wait, unfortunately. We are going to have to plan as if we are going back onto ADA. Our attendance has not been what it has been in the past. We are seeing more absences. We will absolutely work on that as a district to try to limit that. Part of this definitely is COVID related, so it is concerning when it comes to finances that way. So it's a very nervous game that we have to play financially.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Yeah, one other thing, I apologize because I just love to talk apparently. Starting next month, hopefully the state board, of what I've heard is middle of March is when they plan to do our budget setting for JFAC. And then there's also laws that are coming through. I think the kindergarten stuff is just starting to head through the committees now. So we won't really know any kind of good budget numbers till maybe the end of March, which really is a bummer. But we will, if March we don't have a budget hearing, we'll probably want to do something, at least budget talk. We'll probably want to do something in the work session March and or do something for sure in April to make sure that we're on the same page. It'll go pretty quick. So if you guys have any budget priorities you want to get to us, typically our boards will reach out and say these things are super important to us. I know you guys are relatively new, but I think in the eyes of what you guys think are important, we want to make sure we address those earlier on in the process as opposed to coming to you with a finished budget and say, please adopt. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, next item is facilities committee update. Discussion, another discussion information item.
Yep. And it's me again.
You guys just had all kinds of time today.
Well, yep, I'm all over the agenda. So, real quick, I gave you lots of history and details in the board packet. I'm not really going to go over those, but feel free to ask anything that you're like, whoa, what is going on there? Or any of those kinds of details. I'll be glad to answer them, and I may defer to Dr. Russell because he did this before I did. Key thing is that we've gone out and we've got a couple of partners that are helping with this. When I kind of took on my role, I quickly realized that I didn't know what I didn't know, and I needed some help with this. So we've got a couple of partners. The HPM leadership team and Tracy Richter is really helping us focus on what it means to make that plan and get those details in there. And then we have the other folks from Aramesco, Mark and his team, giving us the facility condition information. And those are kind of the two partners that have come together to help us build what we had into something that we can actually take and act on. And that's kind of the important thing. Quick update on who's on the committee. This is one where previously Trustee Ross was on there, and we'd love to invite any trustee to join us for the meetings or start being part of the committee as we continue moving forward and looking at what's going on there. So that's an open invitation for you guys to say, start inviting, Trustee Taylor when she has extra time. Those kinds of things. Feel free to let me know who you guys want, because we'd love to have your voice as part of the planning process. So kind of a quick update on where we've gone is we've gone through a planning workshop, we've gone through our buildings, and we've looked at the condition, what needs to work on, what the age of stuff is. We've gone through and set up, this is kind of our educational standard. And then how do the different facilities meet up to that? And gone through an assessment there. With all of those pieces come together, we start getting some analysis for what our schools look like, and that becomes the state of the schools report. We have a draft version that you guys saw in the agenda, and then we've just started having discussions on what options, spinning out of this thing, what do our options kind of look like? What are things that we could do? What are those things that would be fiscally responsible, and how do we start planning those and making sure that that process is transparent with the community, all of those pieces. We're kind of getting down into those bottom items here where we're going to need to have some community meetings. We're going to have some kind of real recommendations that come out of this thing. And then finally, the deliverable is really in May. I don't believe with our meeting schedule that we'll make the May meeting. So I'm really saying June for you guys to really have it and discuss it at a board meeting and really look at that is really kind of the schedule. Kind of the quick overlay is that when you look at where we are with the process, is we're right on schedule with the middle of February and getting through to some of those deliverables that will probably start coming here in the end of the month towards the middle of March there for us. Couple pieces of information about our facilities. I'm not going to go through and read all the details for you, but the most impressive thing to say is we have nearly $750 million worth of property that we're responsible for. That's
How stressful.
And there's a lot of grass that requires a lot of mowing. And the important fact to point out here is our average age is 42 years. So what we see is that some of our buildings are starting to get to the point where we have some repairs to do though. We had a good influx of money here in the early 2000s with building and new buildings coming in, but that stopped in 2010 and we haven't built a building since 2010 when New Horizons opened. So quick kind of reminder, we talked about this with the previous members, but I wanted to kind of remind you guys what facility condition index. This isn't something we're making up. This came kind of out of the Navy and it's been adopted as the facilities management standard. And what it is you take kind of what your renewal and repair costs are over replacement costs, and that creates a percentage. And when you start looking at the percentage, the percentage represents the amount of risk. And the risk for us, example, is the ability to operate a building safely with kids in it. It may be safe for kids, but the kids may not be warm, or they might be cold, or they might be hot, because there's no air conditioning, all of those kinds of scenarios that come along with aging equipment in buildings. And that's what that scale is there trying to demonstrate for you, is what that risk tolerance there. What the industry selected is the kind of that acceptable risk level of where you've said, hey, system X, the lights in this room have a 20-year life cycle, but they're still working at 21 and they have no indication that they're going to fail, but they could fail because they're outside of that and they're outside of their life cycle. So that becomes a deferred maintenance item. That happens with the HVAC systems, that happens with the door behind you. All of those things all have kind of expected life cycles that, well, after some time, it's not going to work right.
Pretty soon you're holding a district together with duct tape.
Yes, maybe a little chewing gum. But the whole point here is that the whole idea is that the colors represent risk. So more red means more risk that you're accepting in the deferred maintenance that you have. The more likely you are to have something happen where you can't flush the toilets because something's wrong with the sewer system. Those kinds of issues come on, and that makes it kind of hard to operate a school. We had a day when there wasn't power at Union, who was on a well, and flushing the toilets there was kind of hard. And needless to say, that was not a pleasant place to be. But that was because the power was out. That wasn't because the facility was having a problem. So with the assessment, we've been able to get good data on where we are today. So when we look at this, we have about an $80 million deferred maintenance deficit. So we've got about $80 million worth of stuff that we've said we can repair or replace later. Some of those things are HVAC systems, some of them are roofs, some of them are the door behind you because it's probably 50 years old. Maybe not, because we've remodeled this place so many times that I don't know how old that door is. But that door is past its lifetime, so it may not be super serious, but it is something that could fail. Those are all in here, and that's kind of what they projected out for us. And if we don't inject any funds in here, that's what the trajectory looks like for the district for ongoing time with the buildings as they continue to age. More and more stuff starts to become deferred, at which point it costs more and more. So the point here that I want to start with this one is this chart shows that we as a district have done very well with the funding that we have had because we've got a very low FCI without a lot of ongoing large purchases, a large influx of capital, that's the right way of saying it, for a period of time. The last 12 years, we really haven't had a large input of capital until this current supplemental levy that we're on was our first group of additional capital to work on repairing some of the stuff. ESSER has also given us some additional capital that we could repair a few things that HVAC systems are a key example of things that we can look at tackling that we may not have had the funding before. But the story here is that we've done a very good job to be at 11% with our portfolio. That shows that we've done good targeted maintenance. So that's kudos to Kelly Hildebrand and his team that have been really working at trying to keep the lights on and keep the air moving and all of those things. The other part is when you look at that previous chart and this one, what you see is that over time that line migrates up, and that goes along with that deferred maintenance cost that we've got. At some point we hit that critical level, and the question is, where is it acceptable for us? And that's really what we're trying to say. It does happen for us in 2035, and this is not shocking. This is pretty well the same graph that you'll see for every school district in the nation. And in fact, just to compare with Boise, who over the last 20 years has had $300 million worth of capital and put into their district, still has a chart relatively similar to ours. So that shows that we have been on a good trajectory. We have been doing well, but we're kind of at an inflection point. If you look at where our trajectory is, that we need to continue to do things. The idea of items that we could do is we look at what facilities may need more costs to repair or to update, maybe because the capacity issues, we don't have the, there's kids or that not enough kids in the neighborhood, all of those things, moving facilities, changing facilities. A good example that would come along for that is Nampa High. There's not a lot of people that would say Nampa High is a nice modern facility.
But we love it.
We love it.
We love it.
We love the spot. We love the nostalgia of it, but it isn't a modern facility. So that.
Well, and I think something that doesn't often get pointed out is even that it's not even considered to be a secure facility anymore in the way that we build school facilities. And a lot of people don't consider that, but they do have to often close not for things going on at the school, but outside of the school because their campus is completely open. There's just a lot of things that we don't consider even in your presentation, which is phenomenal.
That is very true, that it is not a campus that is easily secured. There's a lot of work that would have to go into that one. It's probably not worth the capital cost to attempt to secure the existing campus, unless you're going to make it like a prison, at which point we don't want to do that.
That was a no.
So the last piece of the we want to put out there is, again, this is a really good example of how the district has been equal across the district, getting the same technology everywhere. And the same thing in the classrooms, the same, making sure that everybody has access to stuff. So the educational adequacy is put together. It's a 35-point scale. So that means the top scores were scoring about 85% on our own scale of getting there. And that's on our 10-year-old building with that one, or 12-year-old building technically. The result there is that what you see is you walk in, every room has wireless is a good example. That's in every room. We've made that a priority. We've gotten that to every building, every facility. There are no people that don't have it. The other stuff comes into is maybe the Centennial, if you look at it, the size of the room, the configuration of the building doesn't necessarily meet our standard. That is our current, what we call our H pattern schools for size of classroom, the types of spaces that the kids have available to them. So that one scored a little bit lower in the educational adequacy, but we still had done good work to get everything in there. So it didn't score dramatically lower. So this is a good example again, where the technology, the maintenance, the across the district, we prioritize doing everything with a level of equality. So all kids had access to the stuff they needed to learn for that. But it does help us prioritize the idea of which schools we might consider looking at. Okay, maybe that school's in a really good location. We like the spot, it's got enough kids, but it isn't meeting our needs. So maybe this is one of the measures that we could use for choosing to select which facility gets updated or facilities. Those are things that kind of spit out of the process through this. So yeah, we're gonna end up with a few different things that kind of lead us into the data there is, the condition, educational adequacy, and then looking at our district capacity and where we are with stuff and where kids are, where we think they're gonna be. And do we have the facilities in the right spots? So that's kind of the update of where we are today with stuff. We don't necessarily have anything that we want to put out there in the world of these are the plans yet.
No promises?
No promises yet, because those are going to be dependent on what we talked about earlier, which is the financing and the fact that we're in a unique situation and we have an opportunity to do this smartly without necessarily impacting people's property taxes dramatically.
If you could go back to the slide that shows the graph, yeah, that one right there. So this is something that I really get excited about, this kind of stuff. I don't know why, but even if we're at 11% and in that tan area, to me, I still think, you're doing the best you can. We really are. I love that our staff can pull together, get creative. I was at West today and he was explaining to me about what they were doing to keep things going. And that building really looks nice. It's a 50-year-old building. I think they're in 50 years, but when you walk into that building, you don't necessarily go, wow, this is a 50-year-old building, because they put carpet in there, they painted it bright red, which is my favorite color. I mean, I love it. It looks really nice what they've done. But even in this 11%, I'm going to be so bold to say that that's unacceptable for our students and for the community. If we want our community to take pride in the Nampa School District, which they do, but if we want our students to walk into a building and be, wow, this is my school. I mean, look how nice it is. Look how great it is. It's not only should we be investing in solid curriculum, teachers, on and on. We need to invest in our facilities. When I talked about Nampa School District being the premier school district in the state, that's one of those circles surrounding that student, is giving them the classroom to go into, the technology that they need. I mean, I was in a classroom this morning where they were using an overhead, and it was just like as big as that TV, and you have 25 kids that are trying to see the information on that little, and they were talking about getting a bigger screen and the whiteboards and all that. All of that comes together in providing the best education that we can for our students. So I think this is a great conversation to happen. I love that you guys have done so much already. And, you know, I've mentioned the term, I think it's time to just be bold. We need to make some bold moves in this school district and dream big. We may not be able to hit all of the dreams that we have, but I think we have to start having those conversations and getting the kids excited. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next year or whatever. But I think having those conversations and getting the community excited about the school district again, getting the staff excited about working in the school district, the teachers. Someone mentioned, what do we do to keep the teachers here? I don't know, maybe that's one, is to look at providing everything that they would need to provide such a quality education for our students. So I love this conversation. Being in the tan is great. It's better than being in the red, but I want to be in the green. And I think, you know, that is really, I think it's time for those bold conversations and big dreams and work to get there with you guys. You guys are the experts. We'll work to get there.
And it is definitely achievable. If you look at our portfolio and you look at it and you look at building strategically and you say, okay, if we take that building off and we build a new one, what does that do? And it starts moving the graph, and we figure out which ones move it the most, and what things we might do to improve programs to help other schools that, you know, may not necessarily need a new facility, but again, improve their experience too. You know, we think about our Gateways program at the old Lincoln Elementary School. You've been around long enough to remember that name.
My mom went to that school.
Okay.
I'm not saying no. She went to that school.
You know, looking at the facility, is it adequate to meet the needs of the program?
Right.
You know, is it one where investing some money in the facility because it's the right size for them, but may not have the bones that they're looking for? That may be the right choice, and it may not be building a new building for them. But there's a lot of analysis that goes into that.
So reallocating the resources where we need them. I love it. I love having that conversation. I think we were on the slide with questions and comments. So.
No, I would agree. I think that you guys do you can tell that there's humility in it because you guys haven't had the money to do probably what so many times you guys have dreamed of doing. But I agree with you. It's just making sure that we have programs at each of the buildings, but again, fiscally responsibly, strategically growing. Those are all the right things. I love the presentation. Thank you. I think it belongs in the levy conversation as well, just because again, it's acknowledging, right? Like we have to keep our schools competitive with just the programs, the technology, the things that they can offer. Even though I love red paint, we have to acknowledge that, right? We need to make sure that they're competitive in other areas. My favorite color is purple, in case anybody wanted to know. But that being said, this is such an impactful slideshow when you're really paying attention, because it does highlight the fact that we have to constantly keep upkeep, and technology changes so quickly that even keeping our rooms available to connect to that technology and processing at appropriate speeds, like there's just so much that goes into it. So thank you for your hard work, and thank you for the presentation, and truly like the humility when you guys even have to ask for money is just beyond amazing. Truly.
Thank you.
It really bothers me when teachers when a teacher or somebody says to me, we've been doing it this way for so long, we'll just make do. Yeah, that bothers me. Our teachers shouldn't have to make do, and our students shouldn't have to make do. So it's incumbent upon us as a community, as a school district, as a board, as an administration to make it happen. So anyways, appreciate the information. We'll get there.
Okay. So any other questions?
You don't want, Jeff and I can keep commenting, but we'll stop.
Okay. We'll talk outside.
Yeah.
I know.
Let's keep it on task.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent report, discussion information item.
Clerk and trustees, just wanted to do a real quick update, just some highlights around the district for you. I was going to ask Mr. Jers if he would bring up a picture here. I think one thing what I would like to do during the superintendent update is always kind of highlight a spotlight of some academics that are taking place so we can always remember. I was walking around South Middle School the other day and Mr. Vickers shared this with me. This is just a chart they have all throughout their school that highlights their growth on the MAP assessment. And that's an assessment we give several times throughout the year to monitor student progress and growth. And it was just neat to hear him talk about what he's doing with this, how they're taking that down into the student level, having students track their own goals, looking at their own learning. Just it's a great thing to see all over schools that academics is a priority, and we value that too. So I'm happy to share more about the MAP assessments when we have more time. But it was just a great thing, brought out a lot of pride for me as well. District tours, I also have been heading around the schools as well. I want to thank the trustees that have been able to do that. Feedback has been real positive. I think it's important through the transition that the vast majority, I think, of folks know me, but not everyone does. So introduce myself, take questions, let people know that we are going to be okay and that our focus really is just what we just talked about, really focus on kids. That's where our teachers are most skilled. They're incredible professionals, as you're starting to see, and really just make sure they continue to love and educate our students to provide for their futures. Calendar committee. We are having a calendar committee that is working diligently on bringing a calendar. We should bring a calendar next month forward to the board to be able to approve. Would like to thank Mr. Lebu and Ms. Mon, our curriculum instruction director. They are both chairing that committee, and not an easy task. I've sat on that before. They just vouched it's not easy. They'll bring one forward, so you should be expecting that next month. Highly reliable schools, an academic focus. We have several staff members that are leaving tomorrow to go to San Antonio to learn about highly reliable schools. This is a framework by Dr. Marzano. He's a leading educational researcher. Much of our academics have been pushed around that framework. They have a lot of research behind them. I'm excited for our staff to go and learn a little bit more and bring more information back. And if we have an opportunity in the March meeting, I'd like to have a few principals maybe come and share a little bit of what they learned, if that's possible. Our illness, I just wanted to give an update on that. I know it was rough a couple of weeks ago. We have seen a drop that is very positive. We now are averaging about 75 to 85 absences roughly a day. That is actually fairly normal for this time of year. This time of year is usually high illness. We are having about 10 to 15 unfilled classrooms a day. Not what we love, but fairly normal for this time of year with our illness. And we have gotten better on our fill rate. 87% of our classes were filled last week. And I know our folks are working hard on hiring. We have put more pay into our subs, and that has helped increase. We had 50 or 60 folks sign up for subbing after doing that. So I'm pleased with that. Not perfect. I would like to still get better. As one of our patrons mentioned, we need to do a better job ensuring that our classrooms are always filled, but we're working on it. I think that is positive movement. Spring work, I just wanted to share, spring is a very busy time for the school district, one of the busiest, if not the busiest time. We have work around our FTE and projections, our budget setting, negotiations is going on. Our testing window for our students will be opening here in a few weeks. That will be happening. Evaluations for teachers and administrators is a huge responsibility that they need to do. And then we are keeping a close eye on our enrollment, as Mr. Dewey had mentioned the importance of ADA versus our attendance, and keeping a close eye on that because that has a lot to do with our funding. Legislation, we also keep a really close eye on the legislators and what they are working on. Really positive movement out of there. Want to give big thanks for the folks, especially that represent our district and our city. There's a lot of positive movement around comments of providing more funding for schooling. We definitely need that. There's some work around an insurance bill that's coming out. There's still some questions on that, but the fact that more money is going towards insurance and how districts can use that is a positive thing. There's some one-time funds the governor's looking at putting into possible salaries, so the district is exploring that as well. And again, thankful that there's that conversation. There are a couple of things that we need to be aware of, at least from the administration standpoint. A couple legislative bills, House Bill 512, which talks about limiting bonds to a one-year cycle, meaning if the bond does not pass, you would have to wait 11 months to run another bond. That could have a detrimental effect on the district. Idaho is one of the very few states that requires a supermajority for bonds. Our neighboring states do now that. Most of them just require a simple majority. So we already have an extremely high threshold. And then having to wait a full calendar year to run another one. Happy to explain in further detail what that could delay as our bonds begin to expire. It could make it harder for us to even pass. So it's almost like having a second hurdle, if you will. We'll have an opportunity to talk about that in more detail at the work session.
I'm sure.
Lastly, I just want to mention the work session. I'm looking forward to our work session on the 28th. I would like to be able to share a little bit of the administration's dreams and hopes, and maybe looking forward and talking about many of the things that we just talked about today around facilities, around academics, around Napa Pride. That is all we have.
Thank you so much. Any questions, comments? All right.
Thank you.
We'll move into the next item on the agenda, which is policy review. Policy number 7408, entering into professional contract, something or other. It was up there, I saw it.
Professional service contract.
There you go.
So again, as we went through before, this is just the policy that aligns with what we're already working through and doing, and you guys just approved for me. So the result there is this is just that next step in there to make it official. It does align with our current Idaho code that I referenced earlier. So if you do have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it about you, but I'm the one that's asking to make this official and eventually get the other one, the policy 8005 off the books when we do make this official.
Any questions? All right, I'll entertain the motion.
I move to approve policy 7408 for first read.
Second.
Okay, it's been a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Policy 1150, agenda setting. This is an action item also. I'll comment on this. I think this was something that I kind of was looking at when we first were seated. And one of the things that it was hard for me to kind of follow or understand, maybe it's just the experience I've had, is the way the agenda is set up now. So basically this just takes out in section 4, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we can just put whatever. It doesn't change the substance of the policy. It just takes out those requirements for those parts. Am I missing anything there?
No, and it also aligns with Idaho open meeting law with the changes that.
Okay. So, I think there's a motion to, we can waive. Yeah.
Permission to speak, Brett. Mr. Walter, I'm so used to calling him by the first name, I'm so sorry. Can the motion be to motion to approve on the first reading?
I have to review policy as long as there's nothing prohibiting you from approving after your first reading. In policy, you can do that. So I'm just not familiar with the policy.
Should we just wait then on that just to make sure? Or?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think it is, but it doesn't really seem
like
super transparent when past practice has been to do a first read and a second read and then passing it on the second read. So I think most people kind of wait to see discuss, because we've done discussion, is there anything else we want to add or subtract or do? And then the next meeting gives people an opportunity if they are like, we have a big problem with this policy and the changes that you're wanting to make. I just think the time is, it's more for the community and the transparency piece to me than it is for us as a board, but I think that's important. I don't know, that's just my
No, and I agree 100% with that. Looking at this policy, I mean, it's just, well, I'll just entertain the motion. I'm not gonna advocate one way or the other. I think it's that we just take this out so that we have a little bit more flexibility and it complies with open meeting law a little bit more. It's not gonna, go ahead.
Sorry, and I want to make sure we're here. So one of the other things, so tonight, the way the policy is written, you guys approved the RFQ for the professional services prior to having a policy in place that aligned with Idaho code. Because the way your policy is written, that technically, because it says you're gonna have new business and then policy, if you go down. So it says, so the new business item, so that it says policy review. So the new policy that, and I'm horrible with last names, I just said Peter. Mr. Jers discussed it. You guys made an approval for the RFQ and the professional architect prior to approving the policy. So then that way you can, as the code, you can just, as open meeting law, you can just do all action items in one section and all information items, and it doesn't give you these restraints.
We didn't approve any policy anyway, so.
The first reading, sorry.
Yes.
But you approved the RFQ.
Right.
So I'll leave it up to you. I'll entertain a motion for this.
I move that we approve policy 1150 for first read.
Second.
I second.
All right, it's been motion and second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I believe the next time my screen just went blank. Oh, there it is. Is policy 1300, district policy, another action item for this one. Kind of along the same lines, and you can, Chrissy, you can fill in, Ms. Lamont, you can fill in some color in the lines a little bit. But as I was going through policy, and that's something I love to do in my spare time, is just read policy. And there were some that I thought maybe needed to come out maybe a little bit sooner to address. And as I was looking at this schedule, that was my question. Do we need to wait because it's in policy to October to address some of those 1030 policies? I do know that there's a statement about that that said if any trustee would like to review a policy outside the schedule, we can get that on the agenda. But there was also some other.
Right. So in Idaho code, you're required to review policies annually, and that the schedule that's up there is not the schedule that's reviewed annually. So this would just make it more effective, is to have policies should be reviewed and updated when needed, but constantly. That doesn't mean we're only going to look at the 5,000s in January. If code changes, if laws change, and then also whenever you have to assess as they go, like maybe we've approved it. How's that working for us? Maybe the implementation was a little rough, but this also gives you the flexibility to add any policy when needed as well. Just making sure we're aligning with code, but also giving you some flexibility at the January meeting. We waived this portion of I don't know if you waived the whole policy or this portion. I don't remember that meeting. It was only a month ago. But that section was also waived. This just gives you guys time to get a more effective process in place that aligns with code.
Yeah, in the code, the policies required in code they're specific policies. It's not like this schedule's not in code. It's just very specific policies that we're required to review on an annual basis.
So, I mean, I'll just give you the history on this. Is one, it does say or as needed by the board. So it's not saying that only in January, these are the only policies that will be looked at. So yeah, if law changes or statute changes and we need to make changes, those happen whenever they need to happen. But I will say that previous boards were not as good at being as intent on reviewing policy. And so this was a first stab at trying to just put it in front of us and saying, and we're gonna tackle this and we're actually gonna look at it. And I think, I know for me, we actually thought, this was a first stab, but it also wasn't a good stab, necessarily the best stab at it. Like, there were some tweaks and things that needed to happen here. I think it's just important to have it in there so that because a lot of times it was only the policy was being reviewed that had law changes, and then we had policy that hadn't been looked at for years and years and years. So it's trying to do our job in that sense of it's on our plate and in our mind of like, here's how we're gonna do it, or possible ways to tackle it.
Chair Kirkman?
Yeah.
Just real quick comment on that as well. The other thing that often would come up is that when there would be an issue with the policy, and bring it forth, and we'd realize the policy was adopted in 1994 or 96, so it just is a way to make sure that we're moving forward. So however the board chooses, they may choose. I think the key that I believe with Trustee Simpson's trying to communicate is we just need to be consistent, making sure that we're reviewing our policies.
Right. So one of the things looking at this is if we're not if we're not reviewing the policies according to the schedule, then we ourselves are outside of what our policy is.
Right.
And that kind of bothers me. And I know it's, varies with different boards. And I think taking this schedule off, I appreciate the background, and that makes sense to me to kind of have that schedule, that framework to make sure that we're reviewing policies. But even if those policies weren't reviewed, then we're outside of our policies. And my point is, how can we expect the district to follow the policies if we're not ourselves following the policy?
Right, so that's what I'm saying. So that is part of why we suspended this portion, was so that we were not outside of our policies.
When was this?
In January.
When was this portion put in effect?
This was put in, go down to the bottom.
Is there a reason that I started
March 15th of 2021.
Okay.
So just March 15th of this last year was when that change was. And from March 15th to December, we hit all of those. And we're reviewing and updating ones that we thought needed to be, but if nothing else, we were reading them and going, yep, we're okay with that. Like, where that hadn't been done, but it was suspended in January because we felt like, one, this board needed to have a conversation around it, and then also knowing like, this maybe wasn't the best schedule.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask is, how did you, because I just started with one, because it just seemed like if we've got to read all policies, so now I'm in 3,000. But did you guys pick this for a particular reason? Because you want personnel, students? Were you thinking, oh, this is the most relative policy for new? Like, was that the thought process? Like, what was the thought process behind, or do you remember?
It was kind of timing of the year and things that are happening.
Relevance.
Relevance. And then also like, when there were times that maybe, we needed a little more downtime because we maybe needed to spend more time on things, because it's not like it just first read and then done. Like, sometimes it was like, yeah, we have a lot that we really think we need to first read and maybe change, so we're gonna push that to the next meeting to do a first read.
Chairman Kirkman, I think first, we always thank the previous boards for all their hard work, and they have put the work in. But I think a couple things. Can you scroll down to the very end of this policy, please? Thank you. So if you look at the very bottom, it does not have a reviewed on date. So when you talk about reviewing policy, it's reviewing it as a board team. You're reviewing it at the board meeting. So looking at those minutes and then updating on the policy reviewed on date. That doesn't mean there's changes made. That doesn't mean anything's been changed. I believe the policy that would be replacing policy 8004 for that. We're just gonna pick on it all night, that professional service. I believe, was that 1982?
Yeah, the.
1982. So we know there's processes, and I'm kind of overlapping. So in the board clerk agreement, right here, because I think we want to also do is build a best practice for you guys. And it's not what I think is best practice. What's best practice for your district and your board? And so one of the bullet points is work and assist superintendent and board in developing, updating, and keeping the district policy manual up to date, current, and accessible to the public. One of the other things to remember is when I look at that schedule, I look at a different set of eyes. We all kind of do, right? I see policy 3,000 students as February. When are we approving our student handbooks? If we have to do 2 readings and one of the policies is going to affect something in the handbook, that's going to slow down our student handbook process as well. So thinking about what's working properly, not just for the board, but also for our staff. So I think one of the reasons to just amend, like take it out for right now, but build a best practice. It's not going to be done right away. Does that make sense? Yeah, and I would say put it in the standard operating procedure manual. Like, here's what we're going to try to do, but then work what's best for you guys, but get it all done. And assess it as we go. Maybe we do it this way, just so we can get it there, so we're not violating our policy.
No, I love that. I love that we're talking about.
Okay, on that note, if there's no other questions, comments, I'll entertain a motion. And this is first read, correct?
Yes.
I move that we approve policy 1300 for first read.
I second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I appreciated this discussion before.
Yeah, in that background is very good.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is possible agenda items for future board meetings, which these can also be emailed to the board, clerk, and myself. Just saying. Okay. Anyone with any thoughts? Okay. Again, we have that process. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just trying to see what I wrote here. I just, for future, I thought it would be nice to maybe even just address or consider to have like listening sessions and maybe some board committees, which include the community, and even budgeting, so, you know, they can understand a little bit more of these multi-million-dollar budgets and curriculums, and just involving the community so they're more informed. And I know that when people are more informed, they have more peace and they have more understanding, and it's, I don't know, more uniting.
Great. On that note,
Actually, I think it's a really good time to educate the public when we're looking at the agenda and somebody wants something on the agenda. What is the process that goes into picking what's on the agenda? That's a really good place to put this discussion.
yeah, let's. Ms. Lamont, best practices for public input on items that should be included on the agenda.
Do we want to address that at another meeting or?
Well, let's address it at another meeting.
Okay.
I'm just giving the time.
Sounds
Right
good.
now, the public, I think it's the public, if there's anyone, or one of our patrons has something that they want addressed or on the agenda, they can email you and we can have that discussion, because the board clerk, myself, and superintendent meet on a regular basis to talk about what's on the agenda. So if there's something there that's emailed to you, that's certainly something that we'll have a discussion on. Okay, so for right now. We'll leave it at
Yes,
that.
and then we'll put an educational session on that too.
Love it.
Can I mean,
Absolutely.
it kind of fits on this, but the 28th
Yeah.
time,
Oh,
the
it's gonna
time,
be about 6-7 hours. No, I'm just kidding.
I was thinking more start time, I
Oh,
guess.
start time, oh.
I just,
I let the cat out of the bag. way
don't
too
worry,
early,
I
didn't I?
guarantee I've been here longer than anyone that's up here.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you,
Well,
are we at that point?
Yeah, it's up at the rate for the special meeting, so that there's 2 meetings.
Yeah, there are. There's
Yeah.
a special meeting at 5:30 to 6:30, and there's a work session from 6:30 to 8:30. The reason we're having this special meeting is to review the applications for the vacant board trustee in an open session. So we're doing that open.
And also the agreement.
And the agreement, now that we've added that to their special session. So it will be 1 hour, and the work session will be 2 hours.
Thank you.
I will walk out of there at 2 hours and Tricia will have to finish the meeting. Okay. On Tracy's comment, real quick, I know Trustee Taylor's been doing this also, but I am meeting with a group of patrons this Thursday. I think it's important to get out there and listen to what, our patrons have to say. And so I am meeting with a group of patrons this Thursday. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
You gotta get out there and listen.
on Wednesday.
Very good. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is executive session.
Okay, I'll go. I move that we move to executive session to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student. To consider records that are exempt from disclosure as provided in Chapter 1, Title 74 Idaho Code. To consider labor contract matter authorized under Section 74206. 206 1A and B Idaho Code.
It's been motioned.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Aye. I'll vote for Taylor.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chairman Kirkman,
Aye.
Trustee Pearson,
Aye.
Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Okay, we are in executive session. We're going to move right back here to the Okay. Based on the discussion in executive.
Wait for breath.
Let's take the scenic route. Based on the discussion we had in executive session, do I have a motion on item 1?
I move we approve that Chair Kirkman signed the document for a due process hearing on March 16, 2022 for employee 2022-02-1401.
I second.
It's been motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item number 2, based on discussion in executive session.
I move that we put employee 2022-02-1401 and employee 2022-02-1402 on administrative leave.
I second.
Is a motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so we adjourn at 9:49.
It's not bad. We're doing better.
Promise I'd be home by 10, I might forget.
Because it's Valentine's Day.
All right.
Thank you.